I sat frozen at Thanksgiving dinner as Mom leaned over and whispered those 5 words that would change everything. Don't mention your job tonight. Across the table, my sister Emma basked in praise for her third promotion at the local bank, while I pushed mashed potatoes around my plate, my Forbes announcement burning like a secret in my pocket. 3 years of silence. 3 years of being the family disappointment. Tonight was supposed to be different. But Mom had other plans. The path to this moment started 3 years ago when I lost my marketing job at a pharmaceutical company. The layoff hit me hard, but not as hard as my family's reaction. While I saw an opportunity to finally pursue my dream of starting a tech company, they saw failure. I remember sitting in my childhood bedroom laptop balanced on my knees writing code late into the night while Mom knocked on my door every few hours to show me job listings she'd circled in the newspaper. Emma had just graduated from college that same month. Unlike me, she'd done everything right in their eyes. Business degree from the state university, sensible pantsuit for interviews, and a steady boyfriend named Marcus who worked in insurance. When she landed an entry-level position at First National Bank, you'd have thought she'd been elected president. Mom called every relative within a 50-mile radius. Dad bought champagne, the expensive kind he usually saved for New Year's Eve. I tried to share in their joy, really, I did, but it stung when Dad clapped Emma on the shoulder and said, "Now this is what success looks like." I was standing right there having just spent 16 hours debugging code for the prototype that would eventually become my company's flagship product. But to them, Emma's 9-to-5 job with dental insurance was the pinnacle of achievement. The contrast became stark during Emma's welcome party. Mom had insisted on hosting it on a Saturday afternoon, inviting all the neighbors and family friends. She'd spent 3 days cooking Emma's favorite foods and decorating the house with congratulations banners. I watched from the kitchen as Emma held court in the living room, describing her desk location and the break room coffee machine as if she were unveiling the secrets of the universe. That morning, I'd received an email that should have changed everything. My first potential investor, Sandra Chen from Vertex Capital, wanted to meet. Not a phone call, not a maybe, but an actual sit-down meeting at her office in the city. The catch. She was only available that Saturday afternoon, the exact time as Emma's party. I pulled Mom aside in the pantry between her restocking the cheese plate and refreshing the punch bowl. "Mom, I have incredible news. An investor wants to meet about funding my startup today." Her face went through a series of expressions I'll never forget. First confusion, then annoyance, and finally disappointment. "Rachel, this is your sister's day. Can't your computer thing wait?" "It's not a computer thing, Mom. This could mean hundreds of thousands in funding. This could change everything." She grabbed my shoulders flower from her apron, transferring to my shirt. "What would change everything is if you supported your sister instead of always trying to compete with her. She has a real job, Rachel, a real future. The least you can do is be here to celebrate it." I stood at a crossroads in that pantry, surrounded by boxes of crackers and listening to Emma's laughter floating in from the next room. Family, or future support, or success. The choice felt impossible, but in the end, it wasn't a choice at all. I slipped out during the cake cutting. Nobody noticed except Emma's boyfriend Marcus, who gave me a knowing nod as I grabbed my keys. The drive to the city took 2 hours, and I spent every minute practicing my pitch, adjusting my business model, and trying not to think about the disappointment I'd see in my parents' eyes when I got home. Sandra Chen was everything I'd hoped for in an investor, sharp, direct, and genuinely excited about my vision for AI-driven customer service solutions. We talked for 3 hours, going over projections and market analysis. When she said the words, "I want to offer you $500,000 in seed funding," I nearly fell out of my chair. The drive home felt different. I had a check in my purse that would transform my garage startup into a real company. I could hire developers, lease office space, and actually pay myself a salary. I couldn't wait to share the news to finally prove that my path was just as valid as Emma's. But when I walked through the front door at 8 that evening, the party remnant still scattered across every surface. I was met with silence. Mom was washing dishes with her back to me, shoulders rigid. Dad sat in his recliner, newspaper held high like a wall. I got the funding, I announced to the room. $500,000. I can build the company now. The newspaper didn't lower. The dishes continued clanking. Finally, Emma emerged from the hallway, still in her party dress, eyes red from crying. "How could you miss my party?" she asked, voice small and hurt. "I only get one first job celebration, and you couldn't even stay for it." I tried to explain to Mom, this meeting could only happen today. "There's always something more important than family with you," Mom said, finally turning around. Her face was stone. "Emma would never abandon us for some meeting." That night, as I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, I made a decision. If my success was always going to be seen as selfishness, if my achievements would always be compared unfavorably to Emma's traditional path, then maybe it was better to keep them to myself. I'd build my company, but I'd do it quietly, without fanfare or family involvement. I thought silence would protect everyone. I thought wrong. It only protected their illusions while slowly poisoning my soul. The first year of building TechServe Solutions was a masterclass in compartmentalization. By day, I was a CEO negotiating with Fortune 500 companies. By evening, I was just Rachel, the unemployed daughter who spent too much time on her computer. The transformation happened during my commute home, where I'd practiced dumbing down my day into acceptable family conversation. My breakthrough came 6 months after the investor meeting. Peterson, manufacturing a company with 3,000 employees, needed a complete overhaul of their customer service system. They'd heard about our AI platform through Sandra's network and wanted a demonstration. I spent 2 weeks preparing, barely sleeping, living on takeout and determination. The morning of the presentation, Emma called to remind me about Sunday dinner. "Mom's making her pot roast. You know, the one you used to love before you got all weird about food." I wasn't weird about food. I just couldn't stomach heavy meals when my nerves were constantly on edge from running a startup. But explaining that would mean explaining the startup, so I just promised to be there. The Peterson meeting exceeded every expectation. Not only did they want our system, they offered a $2 million contract with potential for expansion. Their CEO, William Peterson himself, shook my hand and said, "You're going to revolutionize how businesses interact with customers." I sat in my car afterward, trembling with excitement. My first instinct was to call my parents to finally share something worth celebrating. But then I remembered Emma's party, the cold shoulders, the disappointment. So instead, I called Sandra and then my team. We celebrated at a local bar, 5 employees and 1 investor, toasting to a future my family would never understand. Sunday dinner arrived too quickly. I walked into my parents' house, floating on air, the contract still fresh in my mind. The familiar smell of pot roast filled the kitchen, and for a moment, everything felt normal. Emma was already there, helping Mom set the table while regaling her with stories from the bank. "So then Jennifer, she's the head teller," she said. "I had the best customer service scores of any new employee." Emma beamed carefully, placing forks next to plates. "She's recommending me for the advanced training program." "That's wonderful, sweetheart," Mom gushed, pausing to squeeze Emma's shoulder. "See what happens when you apply yourself to a real career." I busied myself with filling water glasses, biting back the irony. My morning had involved finalizing a contract worth more than Emma would make in 20 years. But her customer service scores were the family headlines. Dinner started peacefully enough. Dad carved the roast while discussing his golf game. Mom fussed over whether everyone had enough gravy. Emma continued her play-by-play of bank life, including a thrilling tale about reconciling a cash drawer discrepancy. Speaking of work, I began seeing an opening. I actually had some exciting news this week. The table went quiet. Mom's smile tightened. Dad focused intently on his meat cutting. I landed a major client for my company. It's a significant contract that will let me hire more people and really scale the business. That's nice, dear, Mom said in the same tone she'd used when I was 7 and showing her crayon drawings. Emma, tell us more about this training program. But I pressed on desperate to share my joy with the people who were supposed to care most. It's actually a $2 million contract. The client said we're going to revolutionize their entire system. Emma laughed the sound sharp and dismissive. 2 million, Rachel. If you're going to make up stories, at least make them believable. I'm not making it up. I can show you the contract. Oh, please, Mom interjected, passing the green beans with unnecessary force. We don't need to see your pretend paperwork. Besides, all this talk about work is giving me a headache. Emma was telling us about organizing the bank's charity drive. I watched Emma launch into another story this time about collecting canned goods, while my announcement dissolved like sugar in rain. Dad nodded along, asking follow-up questions about Emma's initiative. Mom beamed with pride, and I sat there invisible, my success transformed into a headache-inducing annoyance. After dinner, I helped Mom clear the table, hoping for a private moment to try again. She hummed while scraping plates, seemingly content to pretend our earlier exchange hadn't happened. Mom, I'm serious about the contract. My company is doing really well. I might even be able to move out of my apartment and get a house soon. She turned off the water and faced me with an expression I'd never seen before, equal parts pity and frustration. Rachel, honey, I know this is hard for you, watching Emma succeed while you're struggling, but making up elaborate stories isn't healthy. I'm not making anything up. Then why haven't we seen any evidence of this supposed company? Why are you always free for dinners if you're so busy being a CEO? Why does your car still have that dent from last year if you're making millions? Each question hit like a small dagger. I wanted to scream that I was free for dinners because I scheduled around them, that I kept the dent, because I didn't care about appearances, that evidence of my company was a Google search away. But her face told me she'd already decided on the truth. You know what? Never mind, I said, drying my hands on a dish towel. You're right. Work talk is boring. Relief washed over her features. That's my girl. Now let's go see what Emma brought for dessert. The drive home that night was when the real shock hit. Not from my family's dismissal that was becoming routine, but from a text I received at a red light. My cousin Stephanie, who lived across the country, had sent a screenshot of a family Facebook post. It was from my mom's account, prayers needed for our Rachel, still struggling to find her path while watching her sister thrive. We know God has a plan for her, even if it's taking longer than expected. So proud of Emma for being such a good role model during this difficult time. 67 reactions, 42 comments, all offering sympathy for my poor parents dealing with their unsuccessful daughter, all praising Emma for her patience with her lost sister. I pulled into a parking lot and read every comment. Aunts I hadn't seen in years were promising to pray for my job search. Former neighbors were sharing links to receptionist positions. My high school English teacher suggested I consider going back to school. But the comment that broke me was from Emma herself. Thanks, everyone. I try to be supportive of Rachel. It's hard watching her struggle, but I know she'll find something eventually. Maybe not as good as my bank job, but something. That night, I made 2 decisions. First, I would never again attempt to share my professional success with my family. Second, I would channel every ounce of hurt and dismissal into building an empire they couldn't ignore forever. Little did I know it would take 3 years and a Forbes magazine cover for them to finally see what had been in front of them all along. Year 2 brought the kind of success entrepreneurs dream about, but rarely achieve. TechServe Solutions had grown from 5 employees in a cramped office to 37, spread across an entire floor of a gleaming downtown building. Our client list read like a Fortune 500 directory, and our bank account reflected it. We just closed our Series A funding at a $10 million valuation, and I was fielding acquisition offers weekly. But in my family's world, Emma's promotion to assistant bank manager was the news of the century. The announcement came during one of our mandatory Sunday dinners, which I still attended, despite leaving each one feeling smaller than when I arrived. Emma waited until dessert, building suspense like she was announcing a cure for cancer rather than a mid-level management position at a regional bank. "I have something to share," she said, practically vibrating with excitement. "Jennifer called me into her office on Friday and, well, I'm being promoted to assistant manager of the whole branch." The eruption of joy was immediate. Mom actually screamed. Dad stood up and applauded. Uncle Terry, who joined us that evening, whistled appreciatively. "Our little executive." Mom rushed around the table to embrace Emma. "I knew you were destined for greatness." Job management before 30. Dad beamed, reaching for his wallet. "This calls for a celebration. Let me call Romano's and see if they can fit us in tonight." I offered my congratulations genuine despite the familiar sting. Emma had worked hard and she deserved recognition. What hurt wasn't her success, but the implication that hers was the only kind that mattered. As Dad negotiated with the restaurant, my phone buzzed with a text from my CFO Marcus Chen. "Acquisition offer just came in. Sitting down, they're offering $30 million. Full buyout, but you'd stay on as CEO with complete autonomy." $30 million. The number made my head spin. Just 2 years ago, I'd been coding in my garage. Now someone wanted to pay $30 million for what I'd built. "Rachel, you're being quiet," Emma observed, mistaking my shock for jealousy. "I know this must be hard watching me advance while you're still figuring things out, but your time will come." Aunt Patricia, who'd arrived for dessert, patted my hand sympathetically. "Have you thought about applying at Emma's bank? I'm sure she could put in a good word." "That's actually a great idea," Mom jumped in. "Emma, could you help your sister get an interview? Maybe for a teller position?" Emma tilted her head thoughtfully, as if considering whether I was qualified to count money and stamp checks. "I suppose I could mention it to HR. You'd have to start at entry level, of course. Probably part-time at first. The pay won't be what you're used to," she continued, apparently forgetting I'd been unemployed for 2 years. "But at least it would be steady, and who knows, in 5 or 6 years you might work your way up to where I am now." The conversation continued around me planning my hypothetical bank career while I stared at the $30 million offer on my phone. The contrast was so absurd I nearly laughed. Instead, I excused myself to the bathroom and did something I'd later regret. I turned down the offer via text. Not because I didn't want the money, but because staying CEO meant I could keep building, keep proving something to myself, if not to them. The celebration dinner at Romano's was exactly what you'd expect. Emma held court at the head of the table, describing her new responsibilities with the gravity of someone appointed to the Supreme Court. She'd be managing 3 tellers and overseeing daily cash reconciliation. The power was intoxicating, apparently. "And the best part," she announced over appetizers, "is that I'll have my own desk, not a cubicle, an actual desk near the window." "Your own desk." Mom clutched her chest. "Harold, did you hear that our daughter has her own desk?" I pushed my bruschetta around my plate, thinking about my corner office with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. The office I'd earned by building something from nothing, not by being promoted within existing hierarchies. "Yeah, Rachel, aren't you going to congratulate your sister properly?" Dad's tone carried a warning. "Be happy, play along, don't ruin this." I raised my water glass, not trusting myself with wine tonight. To Emma, "May your desk be everything you dreamed of." If they caught the sarcasm, they ignored it. Emma beamed and launched into a detailed description of her desk's proximity to both the bathroom and the breakroom prime real estate in the banking world. My phone continued buzzing throughout dinner, emails from investors, messages from my team, a particularly urgent one from my head of sales about a potential contract with Microsoft. Each vibration was a reminder of the life I lived outside this restaurant, outside their narrow definition of success. The crescendo came with dessert. As we waited for tiramisu, Mom pulled out a small wrapped box with the reverence usually reserved for religious artifacts. Emma, your father and I wanted to give you something special to commemorate this achievement. She slid the box across the table. This was your grandmother's. She always said it should go to the granddaughter who made us proudest. Emma opened it slowly, gasping at the contents. Grandma's watch, the Cartier timepiece she'd worn every day until her death 5 years ago. The watch I'd admired since childhood, running my fingers over its delicate face when she'd let me try it on. I can't accept this, Emma protested weakly, already fastening it to her wrist. What about Rachel? All eyes turned to me, the unemployed sister, the directionless daughter, the one who didn't deserve Grandma's watch because she hadn't achieved the magnificent feat of middle management at a regional bank. Rachel understands, Mom said firmly. When she accomplishes something significant, she'll receive something special too. The words hung in the air like a challenge. Something significant. As if building a multi-million-dollar company from scratch wasn't significant, as if being courted by Silicon Valley wasn't significant, as if employing 37 people and changing how businesses operate wasn't significant. Besides, Emma added, admiring how the watch looked on her wrist, Grandma always valued stability and traditional success. She would have loved knowing I'm following a respectable career path. I thought about Grandma, who'd started her own seamstress business in the 1960s when women weren't supposed to be entrepreneurs, who'd built a client base that included the city's elite, who'd told me stories about fighting for respect in a male-dominated world. She would have understood my path better than anyone. But I said nothing. I smiled and nodded and pretended the watch didn't matter. Later in the restaurant bathroom, I accepted another acquisition offer, this one for $3 million, with the agreement that I'd retain my CEO position and majority control. It wasn't about the money anymore. It was about building something so undeniable that even my family couldn't ignore it. That night, I received a text from my assistant with a screenshot. TechCrunch wanted to do a feature story on our rapid growth and innovative approach. This could be huge exposure, she wrote. Should I set up the interview? I stared at the message for a long time, thinking about exposure and recognition and the people who should care most. Then I typed my response. Thanks, but let's pass. We're too busy building to worry about press right now. It was a lie, of course. Press could have accelerated our growth, attracted better talent, opened new doors. But it also would have made my success visible in ways my family might stumble across. And I wasn't ready for their disbelief to poison this too. So I kept building in silence, letting Emma's desk and window view stand as the family's pinnacle of achievement. Every dismissed accomplishment became fuel. Every comparison became motivation. Every family dinner where I shrunk myself smaller became a reminder of why I needed to grow bigger than their limited imagination could fathom. The watch still bothered me, though, not because of its monetary value or even its sentimental significance, but because of what it represented: recognition, pride, belonging. Things that in my family's eyes I hadn't earned. But I would, even if it took Forbes magazine to make them see it. My 27th birthday fell on a Thursday, but Mom insisted on celebrating that weekend when everyone could gather. Everyone meant the usual suspects: my parents, Emma and Marcus, Aunt Patricia, and a few cousins who lived nearby. Mom had offered to host at their house, promising my favorite chocolate cake and a low-key celebration. I should have known better. Nothing in my family was ever low-key when it came to highlighting the gap between Emma's success and my perceived failure. The morning of my birthday, I'd received the kind of news that should have made this the best birthday ever. My assistant knocked on my office door, barely containing her excitement. Rachel, you need to see this. The Forbes 40 Under 40 nominations just came out. She handed me her tablet, And there it was, my name on the preliminary list, not just nominated, but highlighted as one to watch in the technology category. The write-up mentioned our innovative AI solutions, our rapid growth, and our potential to reshape customer service across industries. I sat at my desk, staring at the screen, feeling a complex mix of pride and sadness. This was the kind of recognition most entrepreneurs only dream about. Yet my immediate thought was how to keep it from my family. How twisted was that, to achieve something extraordinary and instinctively want to hide it from the people who were supposed to love me most? By the time Saturday rolled around, I'd pushed the Forbes news to the back of my mind. Today was about survival, not celebration. I dressed carefully, choosing clothes that wouldn't prompt comments about wasting money or trying too hard. I'd learned to navigate these gatherings like a spy in enemy territory, blending in, saying little, revealing nothing. The house smelled like chocolate cake when I arrived, and for a moment, muscle memory kicked in. Birthday celebrations when I was young, before Emma and I became competitors in a race I never signed up for. Before success became a zero-sum game where her wins required my losses. "There's the birthday girl." Mom greeted me with a hug that felt more like an assessment. "You look tired, sweetheart. Still staying up late on that computer?" "Just work stuff," I replied automatically, then caught myself. Even that was too much information. Emma was already there, helping set the table with the good china. The Cartier watch caught the light every time she moved, a constant reminder of achievements recognized and rewarded. 27, she mused, folding napkins with practiced precision. I remember feeling so lost at that age. Thank God I'd already found my path at the bank. The uncertainty must be killing you. I focused on arranging the silverware, biting back the response that uncertainty wasn't my problem. If anything, I had too much certainty, too many opportunities, too many directions I could take my company. But explaining that would require explaining the company, and we'd established that was off limits. The guests arrived in waves, each bringing the gift of unsolicited life advice. Aunt Patricia cornered me in the kitchen to discuss her hairdresser's daughter, who'd gone back to school at 30. "It's never too late to start over," she assured me, patting my arm with genuine concern. Cousin Bradley, who sold insurance, pulled me aside to whisper about entry-level positions at his firm. "The base salary isn't great, but the commission potential is decent if you can learn to sell." Each conversation was a small death, another reminder that, in their eyes, I was a project to be fixed, a problem to be solved. Not one person asked what I was actually doing. They'd all accepted the family narrative, poor Rachel still finding herself, while successful Emma blazed trails in the banking world. The formal birthday celebration began after dinner. Everyone gathered in the living room, where a small pile of presents waited on the coffee table. I recognized the wrapping paper styles, Mom's precise corners, Emma's enthusiastic use of ribbon, Aunt Patricia's gift bag recycling. "Before we start," Emma announced, standing with the confidence of someone who knew their worth was never in question, "I wanted to say something to my little sister." The room quieted, everyone turning to give her their full attention. Marcus squeezed her hand encouragingly. I braced myself. "Rachel," she began, her voice taking on the tone of a motivational speaker addressing a particularly challenging audience. "I know this year has been hard for you, watching everyone around you succeed while you're still searching for your purpose. But I want you to know that we're all here for you, and we believe that this will be your year to finally find direction." Murmurs of agreement rippled through the room. Mom dabbed at her eyes. Dad nodded solemnly. Emma continued, building momentum. "I've been thinking a lot about what I could do to help, and I've decided that for your birthday, I'm going to give you something more valuable than any material gift." She paused for effect. "I'm going to mentor you. 1 hour every week, I'll share everything I've learned about building a career, about professionalism, about what it takes to succeed in the real world." The room erupted in approval. What a generous sister. What a thoughtful gift. How lucky I was to have someone willing to invest in my future. I sat frozen, a smile plastered on my face while my phone buzzed in my pocket. Without looking, I knew it was work-related. It always was. The company that supposedly didn't exist was constantly demanding my attention. That's very kind of you. I managed the words, tasting like ash. Thank you. We'll start with basics, Emma said, already planning my rehabilitation. Resume building interview skills, appropriate workplace attire. I know it seems overwhelming when you've been out of the workforce for so long, but we'll take it step by step. Out of the workforce, as if I hadn't worked 18-hour days for the past 2 years, as if I didn't manage a team of nearly 40 people, as if I didn't negotiate contracts worth millions. The phone buzzed again, more insistent. I excused myself to the bathroom, needing air and space, and a moment to remember who I actually was outside this suffocating narrative. In the quiet of the bathroom, I pulled out my phone. The first message was from my head of operations. Congratulations on the Forbes nomination. The whole team is celebrating. The second was from Sandra, my first investor. Just saw the Forbes list. So proud of you, Rachel. You've exceeded every expectation. The third was my notification system alerting me that the official Forbes announcement had gone live on their website. The bathroom walls felt like they were closing in as I realized the collision course I was on. My two worlds, carefully kept separate, were about to crash into each other. I splashed water on my face and returned to the living room where the gift opening ceremony had begun. Each present was a variation on a theme, self-help books about finding your passion gift cards to clothing stores for interview outfits. Mom explained a subscription to a job search website. But it was Dad's gift that broke something inside me. He handed me an envelope with unusual ceremony. Inside was a business card for his golf buddy Robert Patterson, who owned a chain of dental offices. Robert needs a new receptionist, Dad explained, pride evident in his voice. I told him all about you, how you're good with computers and need something stable. He's willing to interview you as a favor to me. This could be your chance, Rachel. A real job with benefits and everything. A receptionist at a dental office, as a favor. I stared at the card, at my father's hopeful face, at the room full of people who loved me but didn't see me. The Forbes notification burned in my pocket like a live coal. This is perfect, Mom chimed in. You could start fresh, learn from the ground up. Maybe someday you could even move up to office manager. And it's only 20 minutes from Emma's bank, Emma added. We could have lunch together sometimes. I could help you navigate office politics. The room spun with their plans for my salvation. Start dates were discussed. Appropriate interview outfits debated. The general consensus was that this receptionist position could be the turning point in my thus far disappointing life. My phone buzzed again. Without looking, I knew the notifications were multiplying. Forbes was a big deal in the tech world. My employees were probably flooding social media with congratulations. My competitors were reassessing their strategies. My investors were calculating returns. But in this living room, I was just the failure being offered a pity interview for a job I would have been overqualified for, fresh out of college. I need some air, I said abruptly, standing up, just for a minute. On the back porch, I finally looked at my phone properly. The messages were overwhelming. Congratulations, interview requests, partnership opportunities. The contrast between the celebration happening in my digital world and the intervention happening in my childhood home was so stark it felt surreal. Emma joined me outside, concern etched on her features. I know this is a lot to process, she said gently. The receptionist thing might feel like a step backward, but sometimes we need to humble ourselves to move forward. Humble myself. I repeated the words foreign in my mouth. I did it too, she continued, starting as a teller when I had a business degree, but look where I am now, assistant manager with my own desk. It just takes patience and hard work. I turned to look at her, really look at her. My sister so proud of her desk, so confident in her trajectory, so certain she was the success story in our family. She wasn't cruel, just limited by her own experience, unable to imagine success beyond what she could see from her bank window. I started, then stopped. What was the point? She'd find out soon enough when the Forbes story hit mainstream media, when our parents' friends started asking about their daughter, the tech CEO, when the narrative they'd built came crashing down. I know, she said, misreading my hesitation. It's hard to see now, but this receptionist job could be the beginning of everything changing for you. We went back inside where Mom was serving cake, the chocolate frosting spelling out, "Here's to new beginnings." The irony was so thick I could taste it over the sugar. As everyone sang happy birthday, I made a wish. Not for success, I already had that. Not for recognition, Forbes was handling that. I wished for the courage to stop hiding, to stop protecting people from my light, just because it might hurt their eyes. But not tonight. Tonight, I ate my cake and smiled at their plans and thanked them for caring about my future. I pocketed Robert Patterson's business card and promised to call about the receptionist position. I let Emma schedule our first mentoring session and agreed that yes, interview skills would be a good place to start. Because in 3 months, when the Forbes 40 Under 40 issue hit newsstands with my face in it, I wanted them to remember this night. I wanted them to remember offering me a receptionist job on my birthday while I sat on a Forbes nomination. I wanted them to understand exactly how blind they'd been. It was petty, perhaps, but after years of being diminished, I felt entitled to a little pettiness. The real tragedy was that it would take a magazine to make them see what had been in front of them all along. As I drove home that night, my phone continued its symphony of congratulations. The contrast between my two realities had never been sharper. In one world, I was a rising star, a visionary, a success story worth celebrating. In the other, I was a project, a disappointment, a cautionary tale. Soon, those worlds would collide, and when they did, my family would have to confront the truth they'd worked so hard to avoid their failure, hadn't built an empire. She'd just been smart enough to build it where they weren't looking. The 6 months following my birthday became a masterclass in living a double life. By day, I was revolutionizing how businesses handled customer service through artificial intelligence. By night, I was the unemployed daughter who needed her sister's mentorship to learn basic interview skills. The contrast reached absurd heights when we launched Clarity AI, our flagship product that could predict customer needs before they even contacted support. The tech world went wild. TechCrunch called it the future of customer relations. Wired magazine featured us in their innovation issue. Microsoft wanted to integrate our technology into their entire ecosystem. But in my family's world, I was learning how to write a resume from Emma, who'd printed out templates from a career website circa 2005. The key is to use action verbs, Emma explained during our third mentoring session, held at a coffee shop near her bank. She'd insisted on buying my latte, a gesture of charity that stung more than she'd ever know. Instead of saying, "I did customer service," you want to say, "facilitated customer satisfaction through proactive communication." I nodded, taking notes on the legal pad she'd provided while mentally reviewing the contract I'd signed that morning with Amazon Web Services. They wanted Clarity AI for their entire support infrastructure. The deal was worth $12 million annually. Now about your employment gap. Emma continued her voice, taking on the careful tone reserved for addressing shameful topics. We need to spin it positively. Maybe say you were pursuing professional development or exploring career options. Exploring career options. I repeated thinking about the 72-hour weeks I'd pulled launching our beta version, the all-nighters debugging code, the nerve-wracking presentations to boards of directors who controlled billions. If that wasn't professional development, I didn't know what was. My phone buzzed with a calendar reminder Forbes interview in 2 hours. They wanted to do a full profile piece for the 40 under 40 issue, complete with a photo shoot at our offices. I'd have to cut this mentoring session short, but Emma didn't need to know why. Are you even listening? Emma's sharp tone brought me back. Rachel, I'm taking time out of my busy schedule to help you. The least you can do is pay attention. Sorry, you're right. Employment gap. Positive spin. She softened, reaching across the table to pat my hand. The Cartier watch gleamed against her wrist. I know this is frustrating, being 27 without a career path, but that's why I'm here. We're going to fix this together. Fix this. As if I were broken. As if the company I'd built from nothing, now valued at $50 million, was something that needed fixing. The Forbes interview took place in our conference room, all glass and steel, with a view of the city skyline. The journalist Catherine Wells had done her homework. She asked about our unique approach to AI, learning our plans for international expansion, the challenges of being a female founder in a male-dominated industry. What drives you? She asked near the end photographer, circling us for candid shots. What makes you push so hard? I thought about Emma's resume templates, about Mom's prayers for my employment, about Dad's business card for a receptionist position. I want to build something undeniable, I said finally, something so innovative and impactful that it changes how entire industries operate, success that speaks for itself. Catherine smiled like she's understood more than I'd said. And your family must be so proud. How have they supported your journey? The question hung between us, like a bridge I couldn't cross. How could I explain that my family didn't even know about my journey, that they thought I was unemployed while I employed 78 people, that they prayed for my success while I was living it? They've taught me important lessons about perseverance, I said diplomatically. It wasn't a lie. Their denial had taught me to persevere despite them. The photo shoot followed our marketing team, transforming the office into a showcase of startup success. They wanted shots of me at my desk in meetings with my team, standing confidently in front of our logo wall. Each click of the camera felt like evidence in a case I'd someday have to present. That evening, my parents called with exciting news. Robert Patterson, the dentist, had agreed to interview me the following week. He's doing this as a special favor, Dad emphasized. So you need to be on your best behavior, dress conservatively, don't mention any of that computer stuff that confuses people. Just focus on being reliable and trainable. Trainable. I echoed, scrolling through emails from Harvard Business School asking me to speak at their entrepreneurship symposium. This could be your big break, Mom added. A steady job with good hours. You could even take night classes if you wanted to improve yourself further. Improve myself. I wondered what they'd think if they knew I just turned down an acquisition offer for $35 million because I believed the company would be worth 10 times that in 5 years. The night before my interview with Robert Patterson, I was on a conference call with our Japanese partners, finalizing our Asia-Pacific expansion. It was 3 a.m, but global business didn't care about time zones. We were discussing localization strategies when my other phone lit up with a text from Emma. Don't forget, interview tomorrow. I put together an outfit for you, picking you up at 8 a.m. so we can practice answers in the car. This is your moment. I stared at the text while our head of international development outlined projected revenue streams. $20 million in year 1, $50 million by year 3, conservative estimates. The next morning, Emma arrived precisely at 8, holding a garment bag like it contained royal robes. Inside was a polyester pantsuit in beige, the kind of outfit designed to whisper, "Please don't notice me," to the world. "It's perfect," she announced. "Professional but not threatening. You want to show you can fit in." I changed in my bedroom, catching sight of myself in the mirror. I looked like a background character in my own life, which I supposed was exactly what my family wanted me to be. The drive to Patterson Dental took 20 minutes. Emma used every second to drill me on acceptable answers. Remember to smile, but not too much. Mention your computer skills, but don't oversell them. Be grateful for the opportunity. Ask about vacation days, but not until they bring it up first. And if he asks about salary expectations, say I'm flexible, I recited, that the opportunity is more important than the money. Emma beamed. Exactly, oh Rachel. I really think this is it. The start of your real life. My real life. As if the previous 3 years had been imaginary. As if the office building with my company's name on it was a mirage. As if the hundreds of families supported by jobs I'd created were fictional characters. Robert Patterson's dental office smelled like mint and mediocrity. The waiting room played soft jazz while patients flipped through year-old magazines. Emma had wanted to come in with me, but I'd drawn the line there. This performance had an audience of one. Robert himself was exactly what I'd expected. Mid-50s golf tan, the kind of man who called women sweetheart and thought he was being friendly. He ushered me into his office, which was smaller than my closet at the company. So Rachel, he began settling behind his desk, your father tells me you've been having a rough time. Can't seem to find your footing career-wise. I've been exploring options, I said, remembering Emma's coaching. Well, we all need to start somewhere. I started as a dental assistant myself before working my way up. No shame in humble beginnings. I nodded, thinking about my actual humble beginning: a garage, a laptop, and an idea everyone said wouldn't work. The interview continued for 30 minutes. He explained the filing system, the phone etiquette, expected the importance of making patients feel comfortable. He showed me the reception desk where I'd spend 8 hours a day checking in appointments and processing payments. The highlight would be watering the plants every Friday. The pay isn't much, he admitted, $15 an hour to start, but if you prove yourself, could go up to $17 after a year. Plus, you get free dental cleanings twice a year. $15 an hour. I'd made $15 million last year. That sounds very generous. I said the words like cotton in my mouth. Can you start Monday? I know it's quick, but my current girl is leaving for college and I need someone reliable. I'll need to check my schedule, I said, which was true. Monday, I was flying to Seattle for the Microsoft partnership announcement. He laughed, the sound patronizing. Schedule your dad said you weren't working, unless you count whatever it is you do on that computer of yours. Right, of course. Monday should be fine. He stood, extending his hand. Welcome to the Patterson Dental family, Rachel. This is going to be good for you. Structure routine, a real paycheck. Your parents will be so relieved. I shook his hand, noting how he assumed I'd already accepted. In his world, unemployed 27-year-olds didn't turn down receptionist jobs. They were grateful. They were trainable. They were relieved to finally have purpose. Emma was waiting in the parking lot, practically vibrating with anticipation. How did it go? Did he offer it to you? What's the salary? When do you start? Monday, I said, collapsing into her passenger seat. He wants me to start Monday. She squealed. Actually squealed and pulled me into a hug. I knew it. Oh, Rachel, I'm so proud of you. Your first real job. We have to celebrate. Call Mom. As she drove, chattering about appropriate work wardrobes and packed lunch ideas, I stared out the window and made a decision. I would string this along until the Forbes issue came out. Let them think I was a receptionist at a dental office. Let them celebrate this achievement. Let them believe their narrative was finally coming true. Because when the truth hit, I wanted the contrast to be undeniable. I wanted them to remember celebrating $15 an hour while I was worth $15 million. I wanted them to feel the full weight of their willful blindness. It was cruel, perhaps, but after years of being unseen, I felt entitled to control the reveal. Emma dropped me back at my apartment, still buzzing with plans. She'd take me shopping for work clothes. She'd share her meal prep strategies for office lunches. She'd even put me in touch with her friend who took night classes in accounting in case I wanted to build on this opportunity. This is just the beginning, she promised. In a few years, who knows, maybe you'll be an office manager somewhere, making real money, having a career to be proud of. I watched her drive away, then called my assistant. Cancel my Monday meetings, I said. I need to be somewhere else that morning. Of course. Should I reschedule the Microsoft announcement? No, I'll phone in for that. I just need 2 hours Monday morning for a personal matter. A personal matter. That's what my family had become. A personal matter to be managed between real life. That weekend, my parents hosted a celebration dinner. Not at Romano's this time, that was reserved for Emma's achievements, but Mom made pot roast and Dad opened the good wine and everyone toasted to Rachel's fresh start. Oh, 15 an hour isn't much, Uncle Terry acknowledged, but it's honest work, and that's what matters. Benefits too, Aunt Patricia added. In this economy, benefits are gold. Plus the networking opportunities, Emma chimed in. You never know who comes through a dental office. Could lead to something bigger. They spent the evening building a future for me out of their small expectations. Maybe I'd become an office manager. Maybe I'd marry one of the dentists. Maybe I'd finally have the stability they'd always wanted for me. All the while, my phone buzzed with preparations for the Forbes photo shoot, wardrobe selections, location scouts, interview prep. The two worlds existing side by side, one in my pocket, one at the dinner table. A toast, Dad said, finally raising his glass, to Rachel for finally joining the working world. They all raised their glasses, faces bright with relief that their problem child had finally been solved. I raised mine too, the good wine bitter on my tongue. To joining the working world, I echoed. If only they knew which world I'd actually joined, but they'd find out soon enough. The Forbes issue would hit stands in 6 weeks. 6 weeks of playing receptionist while running an empire. The countdown had begun. 2 weeks before Thanksgiving, Emma's life became a Hallmark movie while mine turned into a pressure cooker about to explode. She announced her engagement during Sunday dinner with the kind of theatrical flair usually reserved for Broadway. Marcus had proposed at the bank of all places, getting down on one knee right in front of the teller windows during lunch hour. Emma recounted every detail while Mom sobbed with joy and Dad clapped Marcus on the back like he'd just won the Nobel Prize. It was perfect, Emma gushed, waving her hand so the modest diamond caught the light. All my coworkers were there. Jennifer took photos. Even the bank president came out to congratulate us. I offered my genuine congratulations while mentally reviewing the Forbes article scheduled to hit newsstands in 2 weeks. The timing was becoming a mathematical equation. I couldn't solve. Emma's engagement party was this weekend. Thanksgiving was in 2 weeks. And somewhere between those two events, my secret would detonate like a bomb at the family dinner table. We're thinking a spring wedding, Emma continued. Something elegant, but not too flashy. After all, we need to be smart with money. Not everyone has a steady income. The pointed look in my direction wasn't subtle. Since I'd started my receptionist job at Patterson Dental, Emma had taken every opportunity to offer financial advice, apparently forgetting that just weeks ago she'd thought I was completely unemployed. Speaking of the wedding, Mom interjected, her voice taking on that careful tone that preceded family drama. Emma has something to ask you, Rachel. Emma's smile tightened. Yes, well, I've been thinking about my bridal party. Here it comes, I thought. The moment where she'd ask me to be her maid of honor, despite years of treating me like a charity case. Family obligation wrapped in white tulle. I want you to know you're incredibly important to me. Emma began the preamble, already telling me everything, and I definitely want you involved in the wedding. But I prompted, tired of the dance. But I need my bridesmaids to be women I can rely on, women with stability, the kind who can afford the dress, the bachelorette party, all the responsibilities that come with being in a bridal party. The room went silent. Even Marcus looked uncomfortable, suddenly fascinated by his empty plate. I thought maybe you could do a reading at the ceremony instead, Emma offered, as if throwing me a bone. Something short, appropriate. Mom jumped in before I could respond. That's very thoughtful, Emma. Readings are important too, and this way, Rachel won't have the financial pressure of being a bridesmaid. Exactly. Emma agreed, relief evident. I mean, $15 an hour doesn't go very far, especially with student loans. I'm really doing this for you, Rachel. I don't want you to overextend yourself trying to keep up with my friends from the bank. I thought about the Forbes photo shoot where I'd worn a $30,000 watch, the same watch now hidden in my apartment because wearing it to family dinners would raise questions I wasn't ready to answer. You're right, I said quietly. I couldn't possibly keep up with bank tellers and loan officers. What would someone like me have to contribute to such accomplished company? The sarcasm flew over their heads like a stealth bomber. I'm so glad you understand, Emma sighed. I knew you'd be mature about this. And hey, maybe by the wedding you'll have gotten a raise. Robert seems to really like you. Robert Patterson had in fact offered me a 50-cent raise after 2 weeks, impressed by my ability to alphabetize files and answer phones simultaneously. I'd accepted with gratitude while fielding texts about our IPO preparation. The absurdity was reaching dangerous levels. The engagement party planning consumed the rest of dinner. Emma had spreadsheets detailing every aspect from catering costs to color schemes. She'd allocated tasks to everyone except me, apparently assuming I couldn't handle anything beyond showing up. Marcus's family is quite successful, Mom whispered to me while Emma discussed centerpiece options. His father owns 3 car dealerships. They must think we're so modest. There's nothing wrong with being modest, I replied. Of course not, but it would be nice if we had something to brag about too, some accomplishment to share at the engagement party. I almost laughed. If she wanted accomplishments, I could provide a PowerPoint presentation, revenue projections that would make their heads spin, press clippings calling me a visionary, a bank account that could buy Marcus's father's dealerships with pocket change. Instead, I nodded sympathetically. Maybe Emma's promotion will impress them. Assistant manager at a regional bank? Mom sighed. It's wonderful, of course, but the Hartmans vacation in Europe, they have a boat. What do we have to show? You have a daughter worth $47 million, I thought, but didn't say. You just don't know it yet. The engagement party arrived on a crisp Saturday afternoon. Mom had spent 3 days stress baking, worried about impressing the Hartman family. Dad had his best golf stories prepared. Emma floated through preparations like a princess in her kingdom, delegating tasks to everyone willing to help. I'd been assigned drink duty. Nothing too complex, just ensuring glasses stayed full and ice buckets remained stocked. Simple things? Emma had explained, that won't overwhelm you. The Hartmans arrived in a convoy of luxury vehicles that made our suburban street look like a Mercedes dealership. Marcus's father, Big Mark as he insisted on being called, had the kind of presence that sucked oxygen from rooms. His wife Vivian assessed everything with calculating eyes, pricing our furniture with her gaze. So, you're the sister, Vivian said when Emma introduced me. Marcus mentioned you're trying to get your life together. How brave starting over at your age. 27 is hardly ancient, I replied, refilling her champagne. Oh, of course not. It's just that Emma had everything figured out so young. Different paths, I suppose. Not everyone can be a success story. I smiled, thinking of the Forbes issue being printed as we spoke. You're absolutely right. Not everyone can be a success story worth $47 million. She laughed, missing the specificity. Wouldn't that be nice? Though I suppose for girls like us marrying well is its own kind of success. Girls like us, as if Vivian Hartman and I had anything in common beyond occupying the same room. The party progressed with the predictable rhythm of forced family gatherings. Big Mark held court on the patio, regaling Dad with tales of business conquest. Mom and Vivian bonded over wedding planning and the expense of kids these days. Emma and Marcus circulated like politicians, accepting congratulations and dodging questions about their timeline for children. I kept glasses full and my mouth shut, playing the role they'd cast me in. The helpful but hapless sister. The family project still under construction. The cautionary tale that made Emma shine brighter by comparison. The breaking point came during the toast portion of the evening. Big Mark had just finished a speech about Marcus's business acumen when Emma's friend Jennifer from the bank asked to speak. I just want to say, Jennifer began, already tipsy on champagne I dutifully poured, that Emma is the kind of woman who lifts others up. Even when dealing with, shall we say, challenging family situations, she never loses her grace. Challenging family situations. Everyone pretended not to look at me. Jennifer continued, "Not everyone is blessed with Emma's drive and ambition, but she never makes others feel small about their limitations, like how she's been mentoring her sister through this difficult period of underemployment. Reception work. Someone corrected. She's a receptionist now." Right. See, Emma helped make that happen. She's just that kind of person, always helping those less fortunate, even when it's her own family. The speech went on painting Emma as a saint for tolerating her failed sister. Each word was another needle, another reminder of my assigned place in this family's narrative. I kept pouring champagne, kept smiling, kept playing the part while my phone buzzed with increasingly urgent messages from my team. The Forbes early release had hit their website. My face was on the homepage. "Excuse me," I whispered to no one in particular, slipping inside and up to my childhood bedroom. I needed a moment to breathe, to think, to decide if I was really going to let this play out naturally or take control of the narrative. I sat on my old bed, surrounded by participation trophies and outdated posters, and pulled out my phone. The messages were overwhelming. Congratulations, interview requests, partnership inquiries. The tech world was celebrating, while downstairs my family toasted to Emma's superiority complex. A knock interrupted my spiral. Emma entered without waiting for permission, closing the door behind her. "You can't hide up here all night," she said. "I know this is hard for you, watching me have everything you don't, but this is my day." "Everything I don't have," I repeated, tasting the irony. "The engagement, the career, the stability, I get it, but sulking won't change your situation. Only hard work will." "Like the hard work of being a receptionist." She sat beside me, her engagement ring catching the light from my old desk lamp. "It's a start, Rachel. We all start somewhere. The difference is, I kept climbing while you kept, well, whatever it is you do on that computer. What if I told you that what I do on that computer has built something incredible?" She laughed, the sound sharp with condescension. "You've been saying that for years. At some point you need to face reality. Not everyone is meant for greatness. Some people are supporting characters in other people's stories. There's no shame in that." Supporting character in her story. "You should come back down," she continued. "Marcus's aunt wants to meet you. She might have a lead on a data entry position. Better pay than the dental office." "Data entry," I said flatly. "How generous." "See, that's your problem. You're too proud for your own good. I'm trying to help you and you act like these opportunities are beneath you. Newsflash. Rachel beggars can't be choosers." Beggars. I thought of my employees, many of whom I'd hired from difficult circumstances, now making six figures and building their own dreams. I thought of the scholarships I'd funded anonymously, giving other beggars choices they'd never had before. "You're right," I said finally. "I should be more grateful for your help." Emma smiled, satisfied with my apparent submission. "That's better. Now come on. My future in-laws are asking where you went. Vivian wants to give you some advice about presenting yourself better. Maybe if you listen, you could land something better than reception work." I followed her downstairs, where Vivian Hartman was indeed waiting with wisdom to share about appearance and ambition. I listened to her theories on why some women succeed while others struggle, nodding at appropriate intervals while mentally composing my resignation letter to Patterson Dental. The party wound down with promises of wedding planning sessions and future gatherings. The Hartmans departed in their luxury convoy, leaving exhaust fumes and judgment in their wake. Our family gathered in the kitchen for the post-party debrief. Everyone exhausted, but exhilarated by the performance. "I think that went well," Mom said, loading the dishwasher, though Vivian did mention she was surprised by our modest lifestyle. Not everyone can own car dealerships, Dad replied, but his voice carried hurt. Still, Mom continued, it would have been nice to have something impressive to share, some family accomplishment beyond Emma's banking career. Emma, still glowing from champagne and attention, decided to twist the knife one final time. Well, maybe by the wedding, Rachel will have moved up to full-time reception work. That's something, right? They all agreed it was something. A small something, but something nonetheless. I helped clean in silence, letting their words wash over me like water. In less than 2 weeks, their small somethings would explode into everything. The Forbes issue would be on every newsstand, in every airport, in every waiting room where successful people waited. Including, ironically, the waiting room at Patterson Dental. As I drove home that night, I made a decision. I wouldn't warn them. I wouldn't prepare them. I'd let them discover their $47 million oversight the same way the rest of the world would, through Google and disbelief and the devastating recognition that they'd been wrong about everything. The engagement party had been the final straw, but not in the way they'd think. It wasn't the humiliation that broke me. It was the clarity. They didn't want me to succeed. They needed me to fail. My failure was the foundation of Emma's success story, the contrast that made her shine. Well, they were about to lose their supporting character, and when they did, they'd have to confront what their story looked like without someone to tower over. 2 weeks, 2 more weeks of playing small while giants prepared to announce my name. I could last 2 weeks. After 3 years, what was 14 more days? Thanksgiving morning arrived with the kind of crisp November air that promised family warmth and holiday magic. Instead, it delivered a masterclass in psychological warfare disguised as turkey and gratitude. I stood in my apartment holding 2 versions of myself. In my closet hung the designer suit I'd worn for the Forbes shoot, a physical reminder of who I really was. On my bed lay the outfit Mom had sent over, a sensible sweater and slacks combination that screamed, trying but not quite succeeding. The accompanying note read, thought this might help you look put together for the Hartmans. We need to make a good impression. My phone buzzed with a text from my CFO. Forbes site, traffic is insane. You're trending on LinkedIn. When are you going public with family? Today, I thought, but didn't type. Today, whether I planned it or not. The drive to my parents' house took longer than usual holiday traffic, mixing with my own reluctance. I'd spent 3 years hiding my success, and in roughly 6 hours, that careful construction would come crashing down. Part of me wanted to turn around to spend Thanksgiving with my chosen family of employees and mentors who actually saw me. But I'd come too far to retreat now. Mom greeted me at the door with an assessment disguised as affection. Oh, good, you wore the outfit I sent, though maybe we should have gone with the brown sweater instead. This blue makes you look tired. Thanks, Mom. Happy Thanksgiving to you, too. She ushered me inside where the kitchen was already in full production mode. I need your help with the appetizers. Nothing complicated, just arranging crackers and cheese. Emma's handling the important dishes. Of course she was. I took my assigned stations at the counter, spreading brie on water crackers, while Emma masterfully basted the turkey she'd been up since dawn preparing. The Hartmans are coming," Mom whispered, as if I might have forgotten the 17 reminders she'd sent this week. This is our chance to really bond with Marcus's family, to show them we're substantial people. We are substantial people, I said, placing crackers in concentric circles. You know what I mean. People with accomplishments, direction, success. The irony was thick enough to spread on crackers. Here I was, featured in Forbes as one of the most successful entrepreneurs under 40 arranging cheese, like it was my greatest contribution to society. Dad appeared in the doorway, already dressed in his best suit. "Rachel, how's the job going?" Still answering phones for Robert. Still answering phones. I confirmed, which wasn't technically a lie. I did answer my phone constantly, usually for million-dollar discussions. Good, good. Steady work builds character, though maybe by next Thanksgiving you'll have moved up to something more significant. There was that word again, significant, as if significance could only be measured in traditional career progressions and conventional milestones. Emma breezed past carrying herbs from Mom's garden. I've been thinking, Rachel, since you're good with computers, maybe you could learn QuickBooks. Lots of small businesses need bookkeepers. It's not glamorous, but it's a step up from reception work. I'll consider it, I said, knowing my team of 12 accountants would find the suggestion hilarious. The morning blurred together in a symphony of preparation and casual dismissals. Every offer to help was met with redirection to simpler tasks. Every attempt at conversation was steered toward my situation and how to improve it. By the time I'd finished arranging 3 cheese platters and folding 200 napkins into swans, I felt less like a family member and more like temporary help. "Oh, before I forget," Mom said, pulling me aside as the first guests started arriving, "I need to ask you something about dinner conversation." Here it comes. The moment she'd whispered about in that horrible flashback that started this whole story. She glanced around, ensuring we were alone, then leaned in close. "Don't mention your job tonight." The words hit exactly as hard the second time. Why? It's just, the Hartmans are very successful people. Big Mark was asking about what you do, and I told him you were in transition. If you mentioned the receptionist thing, it might seem less than impressive. Less than impressive, I echoed. You understand, don't you? Emma's told them you work in tech, which sounds better than dental receptionist. We can be vague. Say you're working on innovative solutions or something. Innovative solutions. The truth wrapped in their lie. Exactly. You've always been good with words. Just keep it general. Focus on future potential rather than current reality. She patted my cheek and hurried off to greet arriving relatives, leaving me standing in the kitchen holding a cheese knife and a secret that was about to explode across the internet. My phone buzzed, a Google alert for my name. The Forbes article had been picked up by TechCrunch, Business Insider, and CNN. My face was spreading across the digital world while my mother asked me to hide my shameful receptionist job. The extended family arrived in waves. Aunts who pitied me, uncles who offered unsolicited career advice, cousins who'd heard about my struggles through the family grapevine. Each greeting came with a dose of condescension wrapped in concern. "Still finding yourself?" Aunt Patricia asked, air-kissing my cheeks. "The journey continues," I replied, helping her with her coat. Cousin Bradley cornered me near the appetizers. "I heard you're working for a dentist now. That's something. Hey, if you want, I could introduce you to my friend who manages a call center. Better opportunities for advancement." "I'll keep that in mind." "You should. Can't be a receptionist forever, right? Though I guess at your age options start getting limited." 27. Ancient in their eyes, past my prime for traditional success. If only they knew I'd been featured in a magazine specifically celebrating success before 40. The Hartmans arrived fashionably late in a black Escalade that probably cost more than most people's annual salaries. Big Mark emerged first, helping Vivian navigate our humble driveway in her designer heels. Marcus's siblings followed a surgeon, a lawyer, and a hedge fund manager, the kind of accomplished family that made my parents sweat with inadequacy. "There's our Emma," Big Mark boomed, embracing my sister like she was already family. "And where's the other one? The sister?" "The other one. The sister. Not Rachel. Just the appendage to Emma's success story." "Here," I said, stepping forward with a practiced smile. Vivian assessed me with the kind of look usually reserved for evaluating furniture at estate sales. "Oh, yes, the one in transition. How's that going, dear?" "Innovatively," I replied, enjoying the private joke. "Well, keep at it. Marcus mentioned you're quite bright. I'm sure something will work out eventually." Eventually, as if success was still a distant possibility rather than my current reality. We gathered in the dining room, the table extended to its maximum length to accommodate both families. The seating arrangement told its own story, Emma and Marcus at the center, their parents flanking them, successful siblings filling the middle sections. I was placed at the far end near the children's table, but not quite at it. The liminal space reserved for those who didn't quite fit anywhere. Grace was said, wine was poured, and the performance began. Each family member took turns sharing their accomplishments from the year. Big Mark had opened his fourth dealership. Vivian's charity had raised significant funds. The surgeon sibling had pioneered some new technique. The lawyer had made partner. The hedge fund manager had beaten the market by impressive margins. Our side of the table grew quieter with each boast. Dad mentioned his golf handicap improvement. Mom talked about her garden club's bake sale. Emma, of course, shared her promotion and engagement, the twin pillars of her successful year. Then all eyes turned to me. Rachel's been exploring opportunities, Mom said quickly, trying to control the narrative. She's always been our creative one, still finding her perfect fit. A free spirit. Big Mark said the words sounding like a diagnosis. Every family has one. She's working, though, Emma added defensively. In tech. Sort of. Sort of in tech. The hedge fund brother perked up. What area? Fintech, SaaS, AI? The table waited. This was the moment where I could reveal everything. Where I could drop Forbes and funding rounds and acquisition offers like bombs on their assumptions. Where I could watch their faces recalculate everything they thought they knew. Instead, I said, customer service solutions, still early days. A startup, he pressed. Seed stage pre-revenue. Something like that? Mom laughed nervously. Rachel's always been modest about her work. Probably because there's not much to brag about yet, but we're hopeful. Hope is important, Vivian agreed. Though at a certain point, one must face reality. Not everyone is meant to be an entrepreneur. Most startups fail, 90%. The hedge fund brother added helpfully. The statistics are brutal. Which is why, Emma jumped in, I've been helping Rachel explore more realistic options, stable paths, benefits, regular paychecks. Smart. Big Mark approved. No shame in a simple job done well. The world needs worker bees, too. Worker bees. I thought of my hive of brilliant employees building something revolutionary, of the queen bee sitting at this table letting them call her a drone. The conversation mercifully shifted to wedding planning, leaving me to push food around my plate and check my silenced phone. The notifications were escalating. Someone had posted a photo of me from the Forbes shoot on Twitter with the caption, "This is what disruption looks like." It had 12,000 likes and counting. Rachel, you're being antisocial, Mom chided, noticing my phone. No screens at dinner. Sorry, I mumbled, sliding it back into my pocket where it continued buzzing like an angry hornet. The meal progressed through multiple courses of food and condescension. Every topic somehow circled back to success and its various definitions, none of which seemed to include me. Emma and Marcus discussed honeymoon destinations while their parents debated the merits of various resorts. The accomplished siblings shared war stories from their impressive careers. And I sat at the end of the table invisible, despite being the most successful person in the room by any objective measure. It was during dessert that the universe decided to intervene. Vivian was in the middle of a story about their recent European cruise when her phone chimed. She glanced at it, intending to silence it, then did a double take. "Oh my," she said, staring at the screen. "This is interesting." "What is it, dear?" Big Mark asked. "My assistant just sent me the Forbes 40 under 40 list. I asked her to watch for it. Wanted to see if any of our partners made it this year." My heart stopped. Around the table, everyone leaned in with interest. Forbes was the kind of validation they understood, the kind of success that couldn't be dismissed or diminished. "Anyone we know?" Marcus asked. Vivian scrolled her manicured nails, sliding across the screen. "Let's see. There's that young man from Goldman Sachs, the woman who founded that fitness app. Oh, and wait. She stopped scrolling. Her eyes widened. She looked up at me, then back at her phone, then at me again. This must be a mistake, she said slowly, or a coincidence. What? Emma demanded, trying to see the phone. Vivian turned the screen toward the table. There I was, professional and powerful in the photo they'd taken in my real office. The caption read, Rachel Thompson, 27, founder and CEO of TechServe Solutions, revolutionizing customer service through AI innovation. Net worth $47 million. The silence that followed was complete. Forks suspended midair, wine glasses frozen at lips, 23 pairs of eyes staring at me like I just revealed I was an alien. It was Emma who broke the silence, her laugh sharp and disbelieving. That can't be. But Big Mark was already pulling out his own phone, fact-checking as any good businessman would. His face went through a series of expressions as he found article after article confirming what Vivian's screen showed. It's real, he said quietly. TechCrunch, Business Insider, Wall Street Journal. They're all running stories about her company, about her. Mom's face had gone pale. But you're a receptionist at a dental office. You make $15 an hour. $15.50 now, I corrected. Robert gave me a raise. This is a joke. Emma insisted, grabbing phones to verify for herself. Some kind of prank. Rachel doesn't have a company. She doesn't have $47 million. She can't even afford to be in my wedding party. I pulled out my own phone, finally freed from the pretense, and showed them the email from Robert Patterson I'd been saving. Actually, about that receptionist job. The resignation letter was short and professional, thanking him for the opportunity, but explaining that my other commitments required my full attention. I'd sent it that morning, effective immediately. Your other commitments, Dad read aloud. You mean this company? This whole time? 3 years, I confirmed. 3 years of building something while you all thought I was failing. But why? Mom's voice cracked. Why didn't you tell us? I laughed, the sound surprising everyone, including myself. Tell you, I tried. Emma's promotion party, I had just secured my first investor. Sunday dinners, I landed million-dollar contracts. Every family gathering, I had news to share. But nobody wanted to hear about my computer thing. Nobody wanted work talk from the family failure. So you lied, Emma accused. You let us believe you were struggling. You let me mentor you about resumes and interview skills. My God, I taught you how to use bullet points. I never lied. I just stopped trying to convince you of a truth you didn't want to hear. The room erupted. Questions flew from every direction. How long? How much? Why hide it? Why the receptionist job? Why let them worry? Why? But it was Cousin Bradley who asked the question that mattered. He'd been frantically Googling, going deeper than the headlines, finding the real story of what I'd built. It says here you've revolutionized customer service technology, that your AI platform is being adopted by major corporations worldwide, that you employ over 100 people, mostly women and minorities, who faced barriers in traditional tech hiring. He looked up from his phone, seeing me for the first time. It says you've been using your success to fund scholarships, support other female entrepreneurs, create opportunities for people usually overlooked by Silicon Valley. Like being overlooked by your own family, Aunt Patricia asked quietly. The question hung in the air like an accusation, because that's what this was really, not just a revelation of success, but an indictment of their failure to see it, to see me. Emma stood abruptly, her chair scraping against hardwood. I need air. Marcus followed her out to the porch, leaving the rest of us in thick silence. Mom stared at her plate like it might explain how she'd missed her daughter becoming a millionaire. Dad kept opening and closing his mouth, words failing him for possibly the first time in his life. It was Big Mark who recovered first, the businessman in him, recognizing opportunity. 47 million at 27. That's impressive. Beyond impressive. That's extraordinary. It's impossible, Vivian corrected. Girls from families like this don't just build tech empires, there must be more to the story. Girls from families like this, even faced with evidence, they couldn't adjust their worldview to include me in it. The only more to the story, I said, standing to start clearing plates no one was eating from anymore, is that I did it without any of you, without your support, without your belief, without even your awareness, apparently. That's not fair, Mom protested. We've always supported you. You supported your version of me, the struggling daughter who needed her successful sister's guidance, the family project who might someday achieve the amazing feat of data entry, the disappointment you had to apologize for at parties. I gathered dishes with steady hands, though my heart was racing. Do you want to know why I took the receptionist job? Why I sat through Emma's mentoring sessions? Why I let you all think I was failing? They waited, afraid of the answer. Because I wanted to see how long it would take, how long you could look at me every week and see nothing but your own assumptions. How long you could sit across from someone building an empire and only notice that she needed better interview skills. 3 years, I continued, 3 years of Sunday dinners where no one asked what I was actually doing. 3 years of being told not to mention work because it was embarrassing. 3 years of watching you celebrate Emma's every tiny achievement while treating my attempts to share as delusions of grandeur. The kitchen felt too small for this conversation, but I couldn't stop now. The dam had broken, and 3 years of silence came flooding out. Do you know what it's like to have your mother post on Facebook asking for prayers because you're struggling, while you're signing million-dollar deals, to have your father excited about a $15 an hour pity job while you're turning down $30 million acquisitions, to watch your sister get grandma's watch for a bank promotion while you're changing an entire industry? Each question landed like a slap. Mom was crying now, mascara tracking down her cheeks. Dad looked older than I'd ever seen him. The extended family sat frozen witnesses to a family reckoning they'd never expected over pumpkin pie. Emma returned from the porch, eyes red but chin high. So what now? You've had your big reveal. You've shown us all how wrong we were. What do you want? An apology? Groveling. What would make the mighty CEO happy? I wanted a family that could see me, I said simply, but I guess Forbes had to do that for you. The irony wasn't lost on anyone. They'd needed a magazine to tell them what had been sitting at their table for 3 years. External validation for an internal truth they'd been too blind to see. We should go, Vivian said quietly, the first wise thing she'd said all day. This is a family matter. The Hartmans gathered themselves with the efficiency of people used to making quick exits. Big Mark paused at the door, looking back at me with something like respect. 47 million, he repeated. That's not luck. That's not accident. That's brilliance. He turned to my parents. You raised a remarkable daughter. Shame you didn't know it. The door closed behind them, leaving just family and the wreckage of our Thanksgiving dinner. Plates of expensive food growing cold, glasses of wine turning warm, and in the middle of it all, the ghost of who they'd thought I was evaporating in the face of who I'd always been. I think, I said into the silence, I should go too. Rachel, wait. Mom reached for me, but I stepped back. I've been waiting for 3 years. I'm done. I collected my things with the same calm I used in board meetings when everything was falling apart. Phone, keys, purse, the designer bag I'd hidden in Mom's coat closet because it would have raised questions. The car keys to the Tesla I'd parked 3 blocks away because my family would have wondered how an unemployed daughter afforded it. You can't just leave, Emma said. We need to talk about this, process it, figure out what it means. What it means, I said, pausing at the door, is that you've been so focused on being the successful sister that you never noticed you'd already lost that title. What it means is that Mom and Dad have been so busy managing their disappointment in me that they missed everything worth being proud of. What it means is that this family wrote a story about who I was and refused to let me edit it, even when the truth was a bestseller. I looked at them one last time. My family who'd loved me poorly, but loved me nonetheless, who'd failed me in ways they were only beginning to understand, who'd have to reckon with this revelation long after I walked out the door. "Happy Thanksgiving," I said. "I'm grateful for the clarity." Then I left, walking past the neighbors' houses with their warm windows and intact families, to my hidden Tesla and my real life, and the phone already ringing with people who'd never needed Forbes to tell them I mattered. Behind me, I left a family Googling their daughter, finally reading the story that had been writing itself at their table for 3 years. It would hurt them, this discovery, but not as much as their blindness had hurt me. The drive home was quiet, except for my phone, which I finally answered on the 3rd ring. "Hey, boss," my assistant said. "Sorry to bother you on Thanksgiving, but the Forbes article has gone viral. We've got interview requests from 60 Minutes, CNN, The Today Show. How do you want to handle it?" "Or schedule them all," I said, surprising myself. It's time to stop hiding. All of them. Even the talk shows. Especially the talk shows. If my family has to find out about my life from the media, might as well give them plenty to watch. She laughed. "This wouldn't have anything to do with that family dinner you were dreading, would it?" I thought about Mom's whispered warning, about Emma's condescension, about $47 million of success they'd refused to see. "Let's just say," I replied, "that I'm done being told not to talk about work." The 20-minute drive back to my parents' house after taking that call gave me time to think. I'd made my dramatic exit, delivered my crushing truths, and left my family to stew in their Google searches. But something pulled me back. Maybe it was morbid curiosity. Maybe it was the realization that running away wouldn't change anything. Or maybe it was the text from Emma. "Please come back. We need you here." We need you here. First time in 3 years those words had been directed at me. I parked the Tesla in the driveway this time, no longer hiding. Mrs. Henderson from next door was walking her dog and did a double take at the car. Tomorrow, the whole neighborhood would know. Tonight, I had bigger concerns. The house was eerily quiet when I walked back in. No clatter of dishes, no forced conversation, no pretense of normalcy. I found them exactly where I'd left them, frozen around the dining table like a tableau of stunned disappointment. "You came back," Mom said, her voice small. "I forgot my phone charger," I lied, then admitted, "and maybe running away doesn't solve anything." Emma laughed bitterly. "Now you care about solving things after 3 years of deception." "Deception requires intent to deceive. I just stopped trying to convince you of something you'd already decided wasn't true." I took my seat at the end of the table, the distance feeling symbolic now. They'd literally placed me as far from the center as possible, not knowing I'd built my own center elsewhere. Dad cleared his throat. "We've been reading about your company, about what you've built." He held up his phone like evidence. "It says here you started in our garage. While you were circling want ads for me to consider." "We thought we were helping," Mom protested. "You'd lost your job. You seemed directionless. What were we supposed to think?" "You could have asked. Really asked. Not with the assumption that I was failing, but with genuine curiosity about what I was doing." Uncle Terry, who'd been suspiciously quiet, finally spoke. $47 million. That's not just success. That's generational wealth. That's power. That's responsibility, I corrected. Every dollar represents someone trusting me with their career, their investment, their business problems. It's not about the money. "Easy to say when you have it," Emma muttered. "Is it because I've had it for a while now and none of you noticed? I drove the same car, lived in the same apartment, wore the same clothes. Money didn't change me. Your perception did." Aunt Patricia leaned forward. "Help me understand. You built this massive company, became wildly successful, and thought the best response was to take a minimum wage job and let us pity you." The pity was already there. The job just gave you something concrete to focus on. "But why?" Mom's tears had returned. "Why put us through thinking you were struggling? Do you know how many nights I couldn't sleep worrying about your future?" And how many nights did you call to ask about my present? Not to offer help or advice or job listings, but just to ask what I was working on. The silence answered for them. Here's what I don't understand, Emma said, her executive problem-solving mode kicking in. You clearly resent us for not seeing your success, but you actively hid it. You can't be angry at us for not knowing something you deliberately concealed. I didn't deliberately conceal it. I stopped fighting to be heard. There's a difference. I pulled out my phone, scrolling back through years of messages. Look, 3 years ago. Mom, I have exciting news about a meeting. Your response, can it wait? Emma's having a crisis at work? 2.5 years ago. Dad, my company just hit a major milestone. Your response, that's nice, honey. Can you pick up milk on your way home? 2 years ago. Emma, want to celebrate my first million in revenue. Your response, stop making things up for attention. Each message was a paper cut, small but collectively bleeding me dry. We were busy, Mom defended weakly. Life gets hectic. We can't remember every text. But you remembered every detail of Emma's trajectory, every promotion, every accomplishment, every minor victory. You threw a party because she organized the office birthday calendar, but my first patent application not worth discussing at dinner. Patents. Dad perked up. You have patents? 17 with 12 more pending. But sure, tell me more about Emma's innovative approach to bank teller scheduling. Emma slammed her hand on the table. Enough, we get it. You're special. You're brilliant. You're worth millions. What do you want from us, Blood? I wanted recognition. Failing that, I wanted respect. Failing that, I wanted to be left alone to succeed without being treated like a rehabilitation project. But you couldn't even give me that. So this was revenge, Mom asked, letting us embarrass ourselves as comparing you to Emma, watching us pray for your employment while you were buying and selling companies. No, this was exhaustion. Do you know how tiring it is to shrink yourself every time you come home, to translate your achievements into failures so your family's worldview stays intact, to pretend excitement about a 50-cent raise when you've just closed $1 million deal? Then why keep coming? Emma challenged. If we were so terrible, why not just cut us off? The question hung between us, heavy with implications. Why had I kept coming? Why had I subjected myself to weekly diminishment? Because I kept hoping, I admitted. Every Sunday, every family gathering, every holiday, I thought maybe this time you'd see me. Maybe this time someone would ask a real question and listen to the answer. Maybe this time my success would matter as much as Emma's. Your success matters, Dad said firmly. Of course it matters. Does it? Because 5 hours ago, Mom specifically told me not to mention my job at dinner. The job she thought was answering phones. Even that was too shameful for the Hartmans. So what would you have done if you'd known the truth? Would you have let me talk about it then? The question seemed to break something in Mom. We would have been proud, so proud. We would have told everyone. You would have taken credit, I corrected, just like you're probably planning to do now. We always knew Rachel was special. We pushed her to achieve. Our tough love made her strong. That's not fair, Emma protested. Isn't it? Tell me you haven't already started revising history in your head. Tell me you're not already crafting the story where you were supportive all along, where the mentoring sessions were actually helpful, where this was all part of some grand family plan. Their faces told me I was right. The saddest part, I continued, is that I would have shared everything with you. Every victory, every setback, every lesson learned. I wanted to bring you into my world, but you made it clear that my world was less important than Emma's bank drama. I work hard, Emma said defensively. My achievements are real. I never said they weren't, but they're not more real than mine. They're not more valuable just because they fit your definition of success. Bradley, who'd been frantically reading articles this whole time, looked up with awe. It says here, you turned down $30 million in acquisition offers, multiple times. Why would you do that? Uncle Terry asked the businessman in him, genuinely puzzled. Because it's not about the money. It's about building something that matters, creating opportunities for people like me who don't fit the traditional mold, proving that success doesn't have to look like Emma's straight line from college to corporate. People like you, Mom asked. People whose families can't see past their own expectations. People told they're too ambitious, too unconventional, too risky. People who have to choose between their dreams and their family's approval. You had our approval, Dad insisted. I had your conditional love. As long as I was failing in ways you understood, you could play the supportive parents. But success outside your paradigm, that was incomprehensible. So you literally couldn't see it. We see it now, Mom offered weakly. Because Forbes told you to. Because external validation finally override your internal narrative. Because you can Google my net worth and suddenly I'm worth listening to. So what happens now, Emma asked. You've made your point. You've proven we're terrible people who missed obvious signs. Where do we go from here? It was a fair question. Where did we go from here? Could you rebuild a relationship after 3 years of willful blindness? Could family dynamics shift when the foundation had already calcified? I don't know, I admitted. I can't just forget 3 years of being dismissed. You can't just pretend you always believed in me. We can't just reset because a magazine validated what you should have seen. But we're family, Mom pleaded. Are we? Because family is supposed to see each other, support each other, celebrate each other. What we've been doing is performing roles in a play where I was cast as the failure before I even had a chance to audition for success. We can change, Dad offered, now that we know. But that's the point. You shouldn't have needed to know my net worth to treat me with respect. You shouldn't have needed Forbes to tell you I was accomplished. You shouldn't have needed external proof of what was sitting at your table every Sunday. The conversation continued in circles, them defending their ignorance, me explaining my hurt, all of us dancing around the fundamental break that might be irreparable. They wanted immediate forgiveness. I wanted 3 years of acknowledgement. We were negotiating from different currencies. Finally, as midnight approached and the untouched turkey congealed on the table, I stood to leave. This time, nobody stopped me. Ah, for what it's worth, I said at the door. I never wanted it to come out this way. I had fantasies of telling you properly, maybe showing you the office, introducing you to my team. I wanted to share my success, not weaponize it. Then why didn't you? Emma asked one last time. I thought about all the moments I could have forced the issue, all the times I could have demanded to be heard, all the opportunities I'd let pass because their disbelief had become safer than their potential rejection of my actual success. Because I was scared, I finally admitted, scared that even with proof you'd find a way to diminish it, that you'd attribute it to luck or connections or anything but my own capabilities, that you'd somehow make my success about your failure as parents, as a family. And looking at tonight, maybe I was right. That's not what we're doing, Mom protested. No. Then what's this conversation been about? Your hurt that I didn't include you, your embarrassment at being wrong, your shock at the money. Where in any of this have you actually asked about my company, my vision, my plans? Even now knowing what you know, you're still more interested in how this affects you than in understanding what I've built. The truth of it silenced them, because even faced with evidence of my success, they hadn't asked a single question about the actual work, the innovations, the challenges, the dreams I was chasing. They'd focused on the money, the deception, the family dynamics, everything except me and what I'd created. I'm proud of you, Dad said quietly. I don't understand it all, but I'm proud. I know, I said, but pride after the fact isn't the same as faith during the journey. I left them with that thought driving home through empty holiday streets. My phone had accumulated dozens of messages from my team, from investors, from journalists who never needed convincing of my worth. Tomorrow, the interviews would begin. The world would want to hear the story of the young woman who built an empire in silence. They'd want the inspiration, the business insights, the technical innovations. But they'd also want the human story, the family who couldn't see past their own limitations, the sister who needed her competition to fail, the parents who loved conditionally and wondered why their daughter built walls. I'd tell them the truth. Success isn't just about what you build. It's about who sees you building it. And sometimes the people who should see you first are the last to open their eyes. I'd been home exactly 47 minutes when the family group chat exploded. What started as one tentative Google search had apparently turned into a full forensic investigation of my digital footprint, and they were discovering 3 years of hidden history in real time. Emma, there's a YouTube video of you giving a keynote at Web Summit. 20,000 people, Rachel. When were you going to mention that? Mom, I found an article calling you the future of customer service innovation. The New York Times, Rachel, the New York Times. Dad, LinkedIn says you have 47,000 followers. I have 12, and they're all golf buddies. I watch the messages cascade, each discovery another crack in their carefully constructed narrative of my failure. Part of me wanted to silence the phone to give them the space to process without me. But a larger part, the petty part I'd been suppressing for 3 years, wanted to witness their real-time reckoning. Uncle Terry, Business Insider has you listed as one of the 10 CEOs to watch. There's a photo of you with Satya Nadella, the Satya Nadella. Cousin Bradley, her company has 4.8 stars on Glassdoor. Do you know how hard that is? Even Google only has 4.3. The messages kept coming, a digital archaeological dig through the life I'd built beyond their awareness. They found interviews, profiles, conference appearances, patent filings, acquisition, rumors, partnership announcements. 3 years of professional existence they'd missed because they'd been too focused on my absence from LinkedIn to notice my presence everywhere else. Then Emma called, not texted, called. We're all still here, she said without preamble. At Mom and Dad's, we haven't left the table. We've just been searching, finding anything interesting. Don't be glib. Do you know what it's like to discover your sister is a completely different person than you thought? To realize you've been living in an entirely false reality? Yes, I said simply. I know exactly what that's like. I've been living it for 3 years. She was quiet for a moment. Then, there's a photo from last year's Fortune Women's Summit. You're on a panel with Reshma Saujani and Whitney Wolfe Herd. The caption calls you peers. Is there a question in there? How did you go from unemployed to this without any of us noticing? I wasn't unemployed. You just decided I was, and I got tired of correcting you. But the scale of it, Rachel, we're not talking about a little side business. You've built something massive. There are profiles comparing you to Mark Zuckerberg. Unfavorably, I hope. I have better ethics. This isn't a joke. Emma's voice cracked. Do you understand what you've done to us? We're sitting here Googling our own family member like she's a stranger. Mom's found 12 articles she wants to read. Dad's watching your TED Talk. A TED Talk, Rachel. When did you give a TED Talk? 6 months ago. You were at a bank leadership retreat that weekend. And you didn't think to mention it. Hey, Emma, giving a little talk this weekend, might want to tune in. Would you have assumed I was speaking at some community college career day? The silence suggested she knew the answer. Put me on speaker, I said. If we're doing this, let's do it properly. I heard shuffling then, the hollow echo of speakerphone. The whole family gathered around their devices like archaeologists discovering a tomb. Hi, everyone, I said to the room I'd left an hour ago. Finding anything good? Rachel, Mom's voice was thick with tears. There's an article here about your scholarship program. You've put 17 women through coding boot camps. 17 women who couldn't afford education. Why didn't you tell us you were doing that? Because when I tried to tell you about my first hire, a single mom who'd been rejected by every tech company in the city, you asked if I was sure I could afford to pay her. The conversation died there. We were worried about your finances, Dad defended. While I was signing checks that could have bought your house, the irony wasn't lost on me. There's a video here, Aunt Patricia interjected, from your office Christmas party last year, your employees. They love you. They're crying, thanking you for changing their lives. They're remarkable people. They just needed someone to see it. Like you needed us to see it, Mom asked quietly. The difference is, I saw their potential before they proved it. You're only seeing mine after Forbes validated it. Bradley cleared his throat. Can I ask something? The technical stuff, the AI, the machine learning, the natural language processing, did you know how to do all that? Or did you hire people? It was the first actual question about my work anyone had asked all night. Both. I knew enough to start to build the initial prototype, but the beauty of being a CEO is knowing when to bring in people smarter than you. My CTO is brilliant. My head of AI development has a PhD from MIT. I hired the best and gave them freedom to innovate. So you're not actually coding anymore. He sounded oddly disappointed. I code for fun sometimes, but my job now is vision, strategy, leadership, making sure we're solving the right problems, building a company culture where innovation thrives. Company culture, Emma repeated. You have a company culture. We have motivational posters from the bank's HR department. You have actual culture. We have values, principles, a mission that matters. When you're trying to change an entire industry, you need people who believe in more than just a paycheck. The industry disruption stuff. Uncle Terry jumped in. The articles make it sound revolutionary, but I don't understand what exactly does your company do? Another real question, progress. We use artificial intelligence to predict customer needs before they contact support. Imagine calling a company and they already know why you're calling, have your issue diagnosed, and can offer solutions immediately. No hold time, no transfers, no frustration. We reduce resolution time by 73% on average. That's actually incredible, he admitted. The applications must be endless. They are. Healthcare, finance, retail, technology, every industry with customer service needs what we've built. The challenge isn't finding customers, it's scaling fast enough to meet demand. And you built this from nothing. Dad's voice carried something new, awe maybe, or just confusion, from our garage, from an idea that everyone said wouldn't work, including you, if I recall, something about pie-in-the-sky thinking and needing to be realistic. We were trying to protect you, Mom said. The statistics on startup failure are irrelevant when you're building something nobody's built before. Statistics measure the past. Innovation creates the future. Listen to you, Emma said, and I couldn't tell if it was admiration or accusation. You sound like a CEO, like someone who knows what she's talking about, like the person I've been this entire time while you were teaching me to use bullet points on resumes. Like someone we don't know, she finished. The words hung between us, heavy with truth, because she was right. They didn't know me. They knew their version of me, the one they'd created and maintained despite all evidence to the contrary. There's a podcast here, Mom said suddenly. How I Built This. You were on How I Built This. Guy Raz interviewed you. Last month, yes. Would you mind if we listened to it? Together now. It was such a strange request. My family wanted to listen to a podcast to learn about my life, but maybe that was fitting. They'd needed external sources to believe in my success. Maybe they needed external sources to understand it too. It's an hour long, I warned. We have nowhere else to be, Dad said. No one's leaving until we understand this, what we missed. So I sat in my apartment, listening to my family listen to me tell Guy Raz the story I'd never been able to tell them about the layoff that became liberation, the garage that became headquarters, the rejections that became motivation, the silence from family that became fuel for success. I heard their gasps when I described the early days, 18-hour coding sessions, maxed out credit cards the week I lived on ramen, because every dollar went to server costs. These were stories they'd never heard because they'd been too busy worrying about my unemployment to ask what I was actually doing. I heard Mom cry when I talked about imposter syndrome, about sitting in rooms full of male VCs who dismissed me until I showed them the numbers, about how I'd wanted to call home for encouragement, but knew I'd only get suggestions to find something more stable. I heard Emma's sharp intake of breath when Guy asked about role models, and I said, I had to become my own role model. My family believed success looked one way, and I was building something completely different. Sometimes you have to choose between belonging and becoming. When the podcast ended, the speakerphone was silent except for muffled crying. Then Dad spoke, his voice rough. We failed you. You loved me, I corrected. You just loved your idea of me more than the reality of me. How do we fix this? Mom asked. How do we make up for 3 years of she couldn't finish? I don't know if you can. We can't get that time back. We can't undo the dismissals, the assumptions, the jokes about my little computer project. We can't pretend you were there for the journey when you missed it entirely. But going forward, Emma said, surely we can do better. We can learn about your world, support you properly, be the family you deserve. Can you, because an hour ago you were angry at me for deceiving you. You made this about your hurt, your embarrassment. Even discovering my success, your first instinct was to see how it affected you, not to celebrate what I'd achieved. That's not fair, Emma protested. We're human. We're processing. Finding out your sister is secretly a multi-millionaire tech CEO isn't exactly normal Thanksgiving dinner conversation. Neither is being told not to mention your $47 million company because your $15 an hour receptionist job is already too embarrassing for the family image. Okay, Uncle Terry interjected. Everybody take a breath. Rachel, what do you need from us? Not want, need, to move forward. It was a business question from a business mind. Clear, direct, actionable. I appreciated that. I need you to see me. Not your projection of me, not your assumptions about me, but actual me. I need you to ask questions and listen to answers. I need you to stop treating Emma's conventional success as the gold standard and my unconventional path as a consolation prize. We can do that, Mom said quickly. Can you? Because it means admitting you've been wrong. Not just about my employment status, but about what success looks like. What support looks like, what family looks like. It means changing fundamental beliefs about who I am and what I'm capable of. You did it, Emma said quietly. You changed fundamental beliefs about what was possible, built something from nothing. If you can do that, maybe we can change too. Maybe, I conceded, but change takes time, and honestly, I'm not sure I have the energy to wait for you to catch up anymore. I've spent 3 years translating myself into terms you could understand. I'm tired of shrinking. Then don't, Dad said firmly. Don't shrink. Show us your full size. We might be overwhelmed, we might make mistakes, but we want to try. Do you? Or do you just want to claim connection to the Forbes 40 under 40 CEO because there's a difference between wanting to know me and wanting to know about my success? How do we prove it's the former? Mom asked. Start by asking about something other than the money or the magazine ranking. Ask about the problems we're solving, the team I've built, the vision for what's next. Ask about my life beyond the numbers. Okay, Emma said. Tell us about your team, the people who love you so much they cry at Christmas parties. So I did. I told them about Maria, the single mom who'd become our head of customer success, about James, the formerly homeless veteran who now led our security team, about Dr. Chen, who'd left Google to join us because she believed in our mission, about the 112 people who came to work every day believing we could change how businesses treat their customers. You gave them opportunities, Mom said softly. I gave them what I wanted someone to give me: belief, respect, a chance to prove conventional wisdom wrong. We should have given you that, Dad said. Yes, you should have. The conversation continued past midnight, past 1, past the point of exhaustion, into something raw and real. They asked actual questions. I gave actual answers. We started building a bridge over 3 years of missed connections. It wasn't forgiveness that would take more than one night of Google searches and podcast revelations. It wasn't absolution. They'd have to earn that through changed behavior, not just promises. But it was a beginning. Can we visit? Emma asked as the night wound down. Your office, I mean. See where you work. Meet your team. Maybe. Let's see how the next few weeks go. I've got the Today Show on Monday, Bloomberg on Tuesday, and a Fortune interview Wednesday. You can watch those, see if you still want to know this version of me. You're really going public, Mom said. No more hiding. No more hiding, I confirmed, from anyone. As I finally ended the call at 2 a.m, I thought about the strange journey that had brought us here. The garage startup that became an empire. The family dinner that became a revelation. The girl they dismissed who'd built something they couldn't dismiss. Tomorrow, today, technically, the world would start learning the story of TechServe Solutions and its unlikely founder. But tonight had been about my first audience, the one that should have been cheering from the beginning. They'd found me through Google instead of genuine interest. They'd discovered me through Forbes instead of family attention. They'd learned my worth through articles instead of asking. But they'd learned. Finally, impossibly absurdly, they'd learned. Whether they'd remember the lesson remained to be seen. The week following Thanksgiving became a masterclass in family damage control. My Forbes feature had gone viral in the worst possible way, not just in tech circles, but in the family drama corners of social media. Someone had screen recorded Mom's Facebook post about praying for her unemployed daughter and placed it next to my Forbes cover. The contrast went viral on TikTok. Tell me your family doesn't see you without telling me your family doesn't see you became a trending sound. By Tuesday, I'd done 3 major interviews and turned down 20 more. Each journalist wanted the family angle, the hidden success narrative, the drama of discovery. I kept my responses professional, focusing on the company and our mission. But the internet had already written its own story. Then Emma called. We need to talk, she said without preamble. In person, today. I have a board meeting at 2 and a product launch review at 4. Then we'll meet at your office. Noon, I'll bring lunch. The fact that she knew I had an office now was progress. The fact that she was demanding to visit felt more like regression. She arrived at our building 15 minutes early, texting me from the lobby with barely concealed awe. Your company name is on the building. The whole building. Just the top 3 floors, I replied, watching her on the security feed as she took photos of everything. When security brought her up, she emerged from the elevator like Dorothy stepping into Oz. The reception area was designed to impress, all glass and steel and living walls of greenery. Our logo rotated slowly on a holographic display. Employees moved through the space with the confident energy of people changing the world. Ms. Thompson, our receptionist greeted her warmly. The CEO is expecting you. Right this way. I watched Emma process that formal title, the deference in the receptionist's voice, the executive floor access. This wasn't her little sister's computer thing. This was real. I met her at my office door and her face went through several expressions before settling on something between awe and anger. The space was everything. She'd probably imagined a CEO office should be floor-to-ceiling windows, designer furniture awards lining one wall. But it was also unmistakably mine, from the photos of our team to the whiteboard, covered in my handwriting, mapping out our next product iteration. This is where you've been, she said quietly. while we thought you were the unemployed struggling, needing your mentorship to learn about bullet points. She set down the takeout bags from the sandwich shop near her bank. I noticed probably the fanciest place she could think of and turned to face me fully. I'm angry, she announced. I noticed. Not about the success. Well, partly about the success, but mostly about the lying. I never lied. Omission is lying, Rachel. Letting us believe something false when you could correct it is lying. Like letting me believe my voice mattered at family dinners when you'd already decided I had nothing worth saying. She flinched but pushed forward. That's different. We were trying to protect you from disappointment. You were trying to, what, punish us? Humiliate us. I was trying to survive Sunday dinners without crying in the bathroom. I was trying to maintain some relationship with my family without having to constantly defend my worth. I was trying to exist in your world without being diminished every time I mentioned mine. So you created an elaborate deception instead. I stopped correcting your assumptions. There's a difference. Emma walked to the window, taking in the city view that cost more per square foot than her annual salary. Do you know what the last week has been like for us? Mom's Facebook friends are sending her screenshots of you with tech billionaires. Dad's golf buddies are asking why he never mentioned his successful daughter. My coworkers found your TED Talk and want to know why I never told them my sister was a CEO. And how does that feel? Having people assume things about you based on incomplete information, having to explain why their perception doesn't match reality. It's humiliating, she admitted. Now multiply that by every Sunday dinner for 3 years. She turned back to me, and for the first time since Thanksgiving, I saw something other than defensiveness in her eyes. We really hurt you. You really did. I hurt you, specifically, with the mentoring, the condescension, the constant comparisons. You really did. She sank into one of my office chairs, ergonomic, expensive, chosen specifically for long, strategic planning sessions. I've been thinking about why I did it, why I needed you to be failing. I waited, letting her process. It was a technique I'd learned in negotiations. Silence creates space for truth. I think, she continued slowly, I needed to be the successful one. It was my thing. You know you were always smarter. Everyone knew it. Teachers, relatives, even mom and dad, though they'd never admit it. You could look at something once and understand it while I had to study for hours. You saw connections I missed. You had ideas I couldn't even comprehend. Emma. No, let me finish. When you lost your job and I got hired at the bank, it felt like validation. Finally, I was the one with direction, the one making smart choices, the one mom and dad could be proud of. And the more you seemed to struggle, the more secure I felt in my success. My failure validated your success. God, that sounds awful. But yes, and when you'd try to tell us about your company, some part of me couldn't let it be real. Because if you were building something amazing, then what was I? Just another middle manager at a regional bank. Just another cog in someone else's machine. The honesty was brutal and necessary. I'd spent 3 years being hurt by their blindness, without considering what they needed to not see. But here's what I don't understand, Emma continued. You could have forced us to see. Could have shown up in your Tesla, worn your expensive clothes, brought us to this office. Why didn't you? Would you have believed it, or would you have found ways to diminish it? Assumed I was in debt, or fronting, or exaggerating? Maybe at first, but faced with this, she gestured around the office, we'd have had to accept it. Or you'd have resented me for it, been angry that I'd succeeded despite ignoring your advice, felt betrayed that I'd built something without including you, found ways to make my success about your failure as a sister. She was quiet for a long moment. You're right, I would have. I would have made it about me. Like you're doing now. Am I... You came here to confront me about how my success affects you. Your anger, your humiliation, your coworkers' questions. Even now, knowing what you know, you're centering yourself in my story. Emma's face crumpled. I don't know how to not do that. I've been the main character in our family for so long, I don't know how to be supportive cast. I'm not asking you to be supportive cast. I'm asking you to recognize that we're in different stories entirely. Your success at the bank is real and valid. My success in tech is real and valid. They can coexist without comparison. Can they? Because every article about you mentions that you're worth more than the entire bank I work for. Do you know what that feels like? Do you know what it feels like to have your own sister hand you resume templates when you're filing patents, to be offered a 50-cent raise when you're turning down $50 million acquisitions, to be told you can't afford to be in a wedding when you could buy the entire venue? I'm sorry, she said quietly. I'm so deeply sorry. I know, but sorry doesn't erase 3 years. Sorry doesn't rebuild trust. Sorry doesn't undo the fact that you needed me to fail for you to feel successful. So what would time, genuine interest in my life without making it about you, questions about my work that aren't secretly about your work, treating me as Rachel, the person, not Rachel, the CEO, or Rachel, the failure, or Rachel, the threat to your identity. I can try, but I need you to be patient with me. This is a lot. Finding out your little sister is a tech mogul is like discovering your house cat is actually a tiger. Everything looks different now. I'm still the same person. Oh, are you? Because the Rachel I knew wouldn't have let us twist in the wind on Thanksgiving, wouldn't have watched us make fools of ourselves, wouldn't have hidden this entire life from her family. The Rachel you knew was a fiction you created. This is who I've always been. You just couldn't see it through your assumptions. She stood pacing the office like she was mapping its dimensions. The money thing. Can we talk about that? Whoa, what about it? 47 million. I can't even conceptualize that amount. And you just have it sitting in an account somewhere. Most of it's tied up in company equity, but yes, I have significant liquid assets. While we were collecting coupons and shopping sales, while you were living your life according to your values and means, my money doesn't diminish your choices. Doesn't it? Mom's been driving the same car for 15 years. Dad patches his own roof. I've been saving for 2 years for a wedding that you could fund with pocket change. And if I'd offered to help, what would you have said? She paused, considering. I'd have been insulted, assumed you were overextending yourself to show off. Exactly. My money hidden or revealed was always going to be a problem. At least hidden you got to maintain your dignity. Our dignity built on your humiliation. Now you're starting to understand. Emma slumped back in the chair. We've really fucked this up, haven't we? The whole family dynamic. It's all backwards and broken. It's been broken for a while. My success just revealed the cracks. Oh, can it be fixed? I don't know. Can you genuinely celebrate my achievements without feeling diminished? Can mom and dad see me without needing to categorize me? Can family dinners include my reality without making it a competition? I want to say yes, but honestly, I don't know. When I think about introducing you at my wedding, this is my sister, the millionaire CEO, I feel both proud and incredibly small. Then maybe start with just, this is my sister Rachel. Let the rest be secondary. But it's not secondary. It's everywhere. Every Google search, every article, every mention of our family now includes Tech CEO Rachel Thompson. You've changed our family's narrative without our consent. You wrote me out of the family narrative without my consent, which is worse. She didn't have an answer for that. We sat in silence, the city humming below us, the lunch she'd brought growing cold. Finally, she asked, will you still come to the wedding? Do you actually want me there, or do you want to manage the optics of my absence? Both, she admitted. I want my sister there, but I also don't want to spend my wedding day fielding questions about why the Forbes 40 under 40 CEO isn't in the wedding party. So we're back to optics and embarrassment. No, maybe. I don't know. I know I love you. I know I've been terrible to you. I know I want you in my life. but I don't know how to navigate this new reality where you're the impressive one. I was always impressive. You just defined impressive too narrowly to see it. That's probably true. She stood gathering her purse. I should go. You have that board meeting. Emma. She paused at the door. I'll come to the wedding, but I won't pretend to be less than I am. I won't hide my success or apologize for it. I won't shrink myself to make others comfortable. Can you handle that? I'll have to, won't I? The alternative is losing you entirely. You already lost me once. You just didn't notice for 3 years. She left then, and I watched her walk through our offices with new eyes, seeing the achievement, the scale, the undeniable proof of everything she'd missed. My assistant knocked, reminding me about the board meeting, and I shifted back into CEO mode. But Emma's visit had clarified something important. My family's disbelief hadn't just hurt me, it had shaped me. Every dismissal had become determination. Every comparison had become motivation. Every moment of invisibility had pushed me to build something impossible to ignore. They'd created the very success they couldn't see, and now that they could see it, they didn't know what to do with the monster they'd made. The board meeting had run late, bleeding into the product launch review, which cascaded into an emergency customer call that kept me at the office until nearly 9. By the time I finally checked my personal phone, I had 43 missed calls and over 100 text messages. The family group chat looked like a digital explosion. Mom, Rachel, please call immediately. It's urgent. Dad, your sister is having a breakdown. We need you. Uncle Terry, family emergency. Everyone to the house now. Emma, I may have made things worse. The last text was from Bradley, sent minutes ago. Fair warning, Mom found your Bloomberg interview from today, the one where you discussed family challenges. She's nuclear. I'd done 3 interviews that day, barely remembering which outlet was which, but Bloomberg had pressed specifically about the personal side of success, and I'd been honest, perhaps too honest, about the isolation of achieving something your family can't see. The drive to my parents' house felt like approaching a war zone. Every mile brought new texts, missed calls, fragments of information painting a picture of complete family meltdown. Emma had apparently returned from visiting me and told them about my office, my success, my anger. That had triggered Mom to search for my latest interviews, finding the Bloomberg piece where I'd mentioned feeling unseen by those who should see you first. I found them all in the living room, a tableau of modern family crisis. Mom sat in Dad's recliner laptop, open tissues scattered. Dad paced behind her, reading over her shoulder. Emma huddled on the couch between Marcus and Aunt Patricia. Uncle Terry stood by the window like a sentry. Even cousins who lived out of state were present via FaceTime on various devices. She's here, Bradley announced unnecessarily as I walked in. Mom looked up from the laptop, eyes red and accusing. You told Bloomberg we were willfully blind, that we chose not to see your success, that we needed you to fail. How could you say that to a reporter? Because it's true. It's not. She slammed the laptop shut. We've made mistakes, yes. We've been confused, overwhelmed, maybe even jealous, but we never wanted you to fail. Then why did you work so hard to ensure I appeared to be failing? Why the Facebook prayers for my unemployment? Why the constant job suggestions? Why tell me not to mention my work at dinner? Because we thought. She stopped, struggling. You thought what? I pressed. That I was delusional, that my company was imaginary, that I needed protection from my own ambitions. We thought you were lost, Dad said quietly, drifting, making up stories about success to cope with failure. Based on what evidence? When did you ever ask for proof? Request to see the company Google my name even once in 3 years. Children don't come with instruction manuals, Mom snapped. We did our best with the information we had. The information you had, I gave you information constantly. You just decided it wasn't real. Emma shifted on the couch. I told them about your office, about the employees calling you boss, about the way that receptionist looked at you like you hung the moon. They think I'm exaggerating. Of course you're exaggerating, Mom said. Rachel's not some Silicon Valley mogul. She's our daughter. We would know. Would you? I pulled out my phone, finding a photo from last month's all-hands meeting. 200 people in our event space, me on stage announcing our Series B funding. What do you see here? Mom barely glanced at it. Anyone can rent a conference room. Anyone can gather people for a photo. The denial was so deep it was almost impressive. Even faced with evidence, she couldn't adjust her worldview to include my success. What would it take, but I asked the room, what would I have to show you for you to believe this is real? It's not about belief, Uncle Terry interjected. It's about betrayal. You hid an entire life from us, made us look like fools. Do you know what people are saying, that we're either the worst family in the world for missing this, or the most gullible for believing it now? So this is about your reputation. It's about trust, he corrected. Family trusts each other. You didn't trust us with your success. You didn't trust me with my own reality. You told me I was unemployed so many times, I stopped correcting you. That's not the same thing, Emma argued. Isn't it you created a narrative about my life and forced me to live in it during every family interaction? I created a narrative about my life and lived it everywhere else. The only difference is mine was true. Stop it. Mom stood shaking. Stop being cruel. We made mistakes. We admit that. But you're acting like we're monsters for caring about your future. You're not monsters. You're just people who needed me to need you. And when I didn't, when I succeeded without your approval or assistance, you literally couldn't see it. That's not true, Dad protested. Then explain the dental receptionist job. Explain why you were so proud of $15 an hour. Explain why that was worth celebrating, but my Series A funding wasn't worth mentioning. We didn't know about your funding because you'd already decided my company wasn't real. Every time I tried to tell you, you'd redirect to Emma's real job. So eventually, I stopped trying and started playing the role you'd cast me in. This is getting us nowhere, Marcus said quietly the first time he'd spoken. Everyone's hurt. Everyone's defensive. Maybe we need professional help to work through this. Professional help. Mom laughed bitterly. We need a therapist because our daughter is successful. How does that make sense? We need a therapist because our family dynamic is so broken that Rachel hid a $47 million company for 3 years rather than tell us about it. Emma corrected. That's not normal. None of this is normal, Mom's voice cracked. Normal daughters share their lives. Normal families celebrate together. Normal people don't conduct psychological experiments on their relatives. When psychological experiments. I almost laughed. Is that what you think this was? What else would you call it? Watching us worry while you were thriving. Letting us offer charity while you were worth millions. Playing along with mentoring sessions while running a company. I call it survival. I call it protecting myself from constant diminishment. I call it choosing my mental health over your comfort. Your mental health. Mom's voice went dangerously quiet. What about mine? Do you know how many nights I stayed awake wondering how to help you? How many prayers I sent up for your success? How many tears I cried thinking I'd failed as a mother? And yet, you never once asked me directly how I was doing professionally. Never once said, tell me about your work, without immediately redirecting to job listings. Never once considered that maybe I wasn't the failure in this story. Because you let us believe. I let you believe what you'd already decided. There's a difference between lying and stop fighting a losing battle. The room erupted. Everyone talking over each other, accusations, flying years of built-up resentment and misunderstanding exploding like emotional shrapnel. Mom cried. Dad yelled. Emma defended. Uncle Terry accused. The cousins on FaceTime tried to mediate from their screens. And I stood in the center of it all, calm in the chaos, because I'd already grieved this family dynamic. They were just catching up to what I'd known for years. We were broken, maybe irreparably. Enough! Bradley's voice cut through the noise. He'd been quiet until now, researching on his phone while the rest of us fought. I've been reading more articles. Rachel, you gave an interview to Wired last year where you talked about finding your chosen family in the tech community, about mentors who believed in you when others didn't, about building a company culture based on seeing potential rather than pedigree. The room quieted, everyone turning to him. You were talking about us, he continued. We were the others who didn't believe. We were the ones you had to leave behind to succeed. Not leave behind, I corrected. Work around. That's the same thing, Mom whispered. You built a life without us. I built a life. You chose not to see it. That's not the same thing. So what now? Dad asked suddenly, looking older than his years. Where do we go from here? How do we rebuild? I don't know. If we do, I admitted. Trust takes time to build and seconds to break. We've been breaking it for 3 years on both sides. Maybe some things can't be fixed. You don't mean that, Mom said desperately. We're family. Are we? Because family should see each other, support each other, believe in each other. What we've been doing is performing a play where everyone had assigned roles. I'm tired of acting. Then stop acting, Emma said suddenly. Be yourself. Your full, real CEO self. Give us a chance to know that person. You met that person today. How did it go? She flushed. I was defensive, threatened, but that's because it was new. We can adjust. Can you? Because Bloomberg isn't the last interview I'm doing. The Today Show wants to do a feature. 60 Minutes is interested. Forbes wants a follow-up. My story is going to be everywhere. The family that couldn't see their daughter's success is part of that story. Can you handle that? Do we have a choice? Uncle Terry asked. Yes. You can continue denying reality, and I'll continue building my life without you. Or you can accept that you fundamentally misunderstood who I am and start getting to know me from scratch. No assumptions, no comparisons to Emma, no trying to fit me into your definition of success. Starting over, Mom said slowly, after 27 years. 27 years of seeing who you wanted me to be. Maybe it's time to see who I actually am. The silence that followed was different from before. Less angry, more contemplative. People actually thinking rather than reacting. Finally, Dad spoke. I want to see your office. Your real office. Meet your employees. Understand what you've built. Not from articles or interviews, but from you. Would you be willing to show me? It was the first genuine interest anyone had expressed. No agenda, no comparison, just curiosity. Maybe, I said, let me think about it. That's fair, he nodded. We've had 3 years to think about who we thought you were. You deserve time to think about who we might become. The gathering broke up slowly. People exhausted from emotional upheaval. Emma hugged me goodbye, whispering, I'm proud of you, without any qualifiers. Mom remained in the chair, staring at the closed laptop like it held secrets she wasn't ready to uncover. As I prepared to leave, she called out, Rachel. I paused at the door. Were we really that blind? Did we really miss everything? You saw what you wanted to see. A daughter who needed you. A sister who made Emma shine brighter. A family member who fit the narrative. The real me was incompatible with that story, so you edited me out. We'll do better, she promised. We'll see, I replied and left. The drive home was quiet, my phone mercifully silent. The family meltdown had been inevitable, necessary even. Years of dysfunction couldn't be resolved in one dramatic evening, but maybe possibly we'd taken the first step toward honesty. Or maybe we'd simply confirmed what I'd known for 3 years. Some distances are too great to bridge some blindness, too willful to cure. Time would tell. But for now, I had a company to run interviews to give and a life to live, whether my family could see it or not. Saturday morning arrived gray and drizzling, matching the mood that had settled over the family since Tuesday's meltdown. I'd agreed to one final gathering before my media tour kicked into high gear, a chance for closure. Mom had called it though I suspected she meant one last attempt at controlling the narrative. I arrived to find cars lining the street like a funeral procession. Every aunt, uncle, and cousin within a 3-state radius had apparently been summoned. Through the window, I could see them arranged in the living room like an intervention waiting to happen. "You came!" Emma greeted me at the door, her relief palpable. "I wasn't sure you would." I said I would. "Your word still means something then, even after everything." "My word always meant something. You just didn't believe it when I gave it." She flinched, but led me inside where 37 family members sat in judgment. Mom had positioned herself at the center, Dad flanking her right, Uncle Terry on her left. A tribunal of disappointment. "Rachel," Mom began formally, "we've gathered everyone because this affects the whole family. Your deception—" "Success," I corrected. "My success affects the whole family. Let's be accurate." "Your deception about your success," she continued, "has ramifications beyond just our immediate family. Everyone here has been praying for you, worrying about you, trying to help you for 3 years. While I was building a company that employs over 200 people and generates $50 million in annual revenue. Yes, I can see how that would be concerning." Aunt Patricia leaned forward. "This isn't a joke, Rachel. We've all been made fools of. Do you know what people are saying? That we're either neglectful for not knowing or stupid for not seeing." "So this is about your embarrassment." "This is about trust," Uncle Terry interjected. "Family shares things, good and bad. You shared neither." "I tried sharing. You weren't interested in listening." "That's not true," Cousin Janet piped up. "We've always been supportive." "Really, tell me one thing you know about my professional life from the past 3 years. One detail you remember from anything I tried to share." Silence. "Exactly. You were supportive of your version of me, the struggling one. The one who needed your prayers and pity and job suggestions. The actual me, you couldn't even see her." "So you punished us?" Grandma Rose spoke for the first time, her voice carrying the weight of matriarch disappointment. "You let us worry while you prospered." "I let you feel whatever you chose to feel, based on assumptions you chose to make. I stopped correcting fiction you insisted on believing." "That's cruel," Mom said. "What's cruel is telling your daughter not to mention her job at Thanksgiving because it's embarrassing. What's cruel is celebrating a $15 an hour receptionist position while ignoring a multi-million-dollar company. What's cruel is needing your child to fail so your other child feels successful." "We never needed you to fail," Emma protested. "Then why did my success require a Forbes announcement for you to see it?" The room shifted uncomfortably. Nobody had an answer that didn't confirm my point. "Here's what I think." I continued standing now, addressing the room like a board meeting. "You're not upset that I succeeded. You're upset that I succeeded without you, without your approval, your input, your permission. I built something extraordinary while you were busy pitying me, and that challenges everything you believe about how the world works." "That's not—" several voices started. "It is—" I cut them off. "Emma works at a bank. You understand banks, traditional hierarchy, clear progression, visible metrics of success. What I built, you don't understand it, so you decided it wasn't real." "We want to understand now," Dad offered. Do you want me to make you feel better about missing it? Because those are different things." "We want our daughter back," Mom said, tears starting. "We want our family whole." "Your family was never whole. It was just easier to pretend when you thought I was the only broken piece." "So what are you saying?" Uncle Terry demanded. "That you're done with us writing off your entire family because we made mistakes?" "I'm saying I'm done pretending, done shrinking, done translating my life into terms you find acceptable. If you want me in your life, you get the full version. The CEO, the millionaire, the woman who changed an industry while you were teaching her to write resumes." "Fine," Mom snapped, anger finally breaking through. "Be that person, but don't expect us to applaud your deception." Don't expect us to celebrate that you watched us suffer while you thrived. I don't expect anything from you anymore. That's the point. I spent 3 years expecting you to see me, to hear me, to believe me. Now I know better. So you're leaving, Grandma Rose said. It wasn't a question. I'm already gone, have been for 3 years. You're just noticing now. I pulled out my phone, checking the time. I have a flight to catch. The Today Show tapes Monday, and I have prep meetings all weekend. You're really doing this, Emma said, choosing media appearances over family. I'm choosing truth over comfort, visibility over invisibility, my actual life over the performance you need me to give. We're not asking for a performance, Dad said desperately. We're asking for a chance. You had 3 years of chances. Every Sunday dinner, every family gathering, every time I walked through that door hoping this time would be different. So that's it. Mom stood too, facing me across the room. You're just walking away from all of us, from everything we built as a family. What did we build, Mom? A dynamic where one daughter's success required the other's failure. A system where achievements only count if they fit your narrow definition. A family that needs Forbes magazine to recognize their own child? We built love, she said fiercely. Imperfect, flawed, sometimes blind, but love nonetheless. Love isn't enough when it comes with conditions. When it requires me to be less so, Emma can be more. When it demands I hide my light so you don't have to adjust your vision. Then go, she said, voice breaking. Go be your CEO self. Give your interviews. Count your millions, but know that you're choosing them over us. No, I corrected. I'm choosing me over your version of me. There's a difference. I headed for the door, family members parting like a biblical sea. At the threshold, I turned back one last time. For what it's worth, I wanted to share all of this with you. Every milestone, every victory, every challenge. I wanted my family to be part of my journey, but you made it clear that my journey only mattered if it looked like Emma's. So I took the journey alone. You're not alone, Bradley said suddenly. Your employees, the women you mentor, the investors who believed in you. You found a different family. I agreed. One that could see me without needing to diminish me. Is there any way back, Emma asked. Any path where we can be in your life again? I don't know, maybe. But it would require you to fundamentally change how you see me. And honestly, I'm not holding my breath. I left then, walking past the funeral procession of cars to my Tesla. The rain had stopped, sun breaking through clouds in that dramatic way that feels like movie symbolism. My phone buzzed with a text from my assistant. Car to airport will be there in 20 minutes. Your talking points for the Today Show are uploaded. The team sends their love and says, kill it on Monday. The team, my chosen family, the people who saw my potential when it was just code on a laptop screen, who celebrated my victories without needing to diminish them, who believed in my vision without needing external validation. As I drove away from my childhood home, possibly for the last time, I thought about the strange journey that had brought me here, the garage that became a headquarters, the family that couldn't see past their assumptions, the success that required a magazine cover to be believed. Monday, I would sit across from Hoda and Savannah and tell my story to millions, the story of a woman who built an empire while her family thought she was unemployed. The story of choosing authenticity over belonging. The story of what happens when the people who should see you first are the last to open their eyes. But today I was just Rachel Thompson driving away from a family that loved me poorly and toward a future I'd built despite them. The exile was self-imposed but necessary. You can't stay in spaces that require you to be smaller than you are. You can't build an empire while pretending to be a peasant. My phone rang. The caller ID showed Mom. I let it go to voicemail. Some bridges once burned light the way forward. The weekend in New York was a whirlwind of preparation, media training, wardrobe fittings, meetings with my publicist. The Today Show wanted the full story, the success, the family drama, the lessons learned. I'd given them enough to craft a compelling segment while keeping the deepest wounds private. Sunday night, as I sat in my hotel room overlooking Central Park, my phone exploded with notifications. Emma had posted on Instagram a long, emotional caption accompanying a photo of us from years ago, back when she was the struggling college student and I was the employed older sister. My sister, Rachel Tech CEO, taught me something profound this week. It began that sometimes we're so busy writing other people's stories, we forget to read the ones they're actually living. It was a masterpiece of public relations. She acknowledged missing my success, praised my achievements, and positioned herself as having learned a valuable lesson. The comments flooded in hearts and prayer hands and family is everything platitudes. But I saw what it really was: damage control. The family had realized my media tour could paint them poorly, so Emma was getting ahead of the narrative, the supportive sister publicly claiming pride in what she'd privately dismissed. Then came the DM, "I hope this is okay. I wanted people to know I'm proud of you." I stared at it for a long time before responding, "You wanted people to know you're not the villain in tomorrow's interview." "That too," she admitted, "but also the first thing." At least she was partially honest. Monday morning arrived with Manhattan's peculiar energy. The car to 30 Rock came early, and I spent the ride reviewing my talking points. Tell the success story. Acknowledge the family dynamics diplomatically. Focus on the future. Don't burn bridges you might want to rebuild. But as I sat in the green room watching the show on monitors while they prepared my segment, I made a decision. Diplomacy had gotten me 3 years of invisibility. Truth, however uncomfortable, was the only way forward. "Rachel Thompson." "Everybody," Hoda announced, and suddenly I was on that famous couch, cameras rolling, America watching. The interview started safely enough: the company's origin, the technology, the Forbes recognition. Savannah was particularly interested in the bootstrapping phase, building a tech company from nothing. I told them about coding in the garage, maxing out credit cards, the rejections that fueled determination. Then Hoda leaned in with that look that preceded the real questions. "Your story has resonated with so many people, particularly the family aspect. Can you tell us about that? How does someone build a multi-million-dollar company without their family knowing?" Here it was, the moment to choose between preservation and truth. "They knew I was building something," I said carefully. "They just didn't believe it was real, and after a while I stopped trying to convince them." "That must have been lonely," Savannah said. "Incredibly, but loneliness can be productive. When you're not spending energy trying to be seen by people determined not to see you, you can focus on building something undeniable." "Your family has seen your success now," Hoda prompted. "How has that been?" I thought about Emma's Instagram post, Mom's tears, Dad's confusion, the family meeting that felt like a trial. Complicated," I said finally. "They're hurt that I didn't include them in the journey. I'm hurt that they made it clear my journey wasn't worth including them in. We're all processing what it means to have been in each other's lives, but not really present." "Do you regret keeping it secret?" "I regret that secrecy felt like my only option. I regret that my family's definition of success was so narrow I couldn't fit through it. I regret that it took a magazine cover for them to believe what I'd been trying to tell them for years." What would you say to families watching who might have similar dynamics? This was my chance. The real message beyond the sensational story. "Listen," I said, looking directly at the camera. "Really listen, not with the intent to respond or fix or categorize, but to understand. Your children, your siblings, your family members, they're telling you who they are. Believe them. See them. Don't wait for external validation to recognize the internal truth they're sharing." "And if you're the one not being seen," Savannah asked, "build your life anyway. Find your people, the ones who see your potential before your success. Create the visibility you're not given. and understand that sometimes the people who love you are limited by their own perspectives. That's not always malicious, but it is always painful. The interview wrapped with discussion of the company's future, our expansion plans, the thousands of jobs we were creating. But I knew the clips that would go viral were about family, about blindness, about the cost of being unseen by those who should see you first. After the show, my phone was chaos. Investors congratulating me on the appearance, employees proud of their CEO, media outlets wanting follow-ups, but buried in the noise were texts from family. Mom, you looked beautiful. I'm sorry we made you feel invisible. Dad, proud of you. Always was, just didn't know how to show it. Emma, thank you for not throwing me under the bus. I know you could have. But it was the text from Grandma Rose that stopped me cold. I see you now, sweetheart. All of you. And you're magnificent. I was still processing when my publicist appeared. Incredible segment. Authentic, powerful, but not vindictive. You struck the perfect balance. Had I just learned to perform a different role, the gracious success story instead of the failing daughter? The rest of the day was a blur of additional interviews, photo shoots, and meetings. But that night, alone in my hotel room again, I finally listened to the voicemail Mom had left after I'd driven away from the family gathering. Rachel. Her voice was thick with tears. I know you won't listen to this now. Maybe not ever, but I need you to know something. We didn't need you to fail. We needed you to need us. And when you didn't, when you built this whole life without us, we didn't know where we fit. That's on us, not you. But it's the truth. We defined ourselves as the parents of a struggling daughter and a successful one. When both of you were successful in different ways, we didn't know who we were anymore. I'm sorry we made our identity crisis your burden. I love you. Both versions. All versions. Even the ones I couldn't see. I played it 3 times, hearing layers I'd missed. The admission of their own struggle, the acknowledgement of their limited vision, the love that existed alongside the blindness. My phone rang. Emma. Did you watch? I asked without preamble. Everyone watched. You're trending on Twitter. Seen and unseen, people are sharing their own stories of family blindness. Is that what we're calling it now? I don't know what to call it, she admitted. I've been thinking all week about what you said, about needing you to fail so I could succeed. It's horrible, but it's true. Do you know why I actually went to the bank in the first place? Because they offered you a job. Because you told me my senior year that I should think bigger than traditional corporate paths, that I had the creativity for entrepreneurship. You saw something in me that scared me, so I ran to the safest, most traditional option I could find. Emma. And then when you did what you'd encouraged me to do, thought bigger, took risks, built something I couldn't handle it. I needed you to be the cautionary tale that justified my cowardice. The honesty was brutal and unexpected. You're not a coward, I said. You chose the path that felt right for you. Did I? Or did I choose the path that made me feel special in our family? The good daughter with the steady job while you were the wild card? Except you weren't wild. You were brave. And I've spent 3 years punishing you for the bravery I didn't have. Where's this coming from? Marcus and I have been talking, really talking, about the wedding, the future, what we actually want versus what we think we should want. He pointed out that I've been so focused on being the successful sister that I never asked if I even like banking. Do you? I don't know. I've never let myself think about it. It was my identity. Emma, the banker, the stable one, the one with the desk by the window. But watching you on TV today, talking about building something that matters, creating opportunities for others. When did I stop wanting that for myself? You can still want it. It's not too late to change direction. Easy for you to say. You're worth millions. I have a wedding to pay for and a reputation to maintain. The wedding you could have with my pocket change? She laughed, surprising us both. Yeah, that wedding. The one where I didn't make you a bridesmaid because I thought you couldn't afford it. Water under the bridge. Is it, can we really move forward or are we too broken? When does... I don't know, I admitted. But maybe broken doesn't mean irreparable. Maybe it just means we rebuild differently. I'd like that. To rebuild, to actually know my sister instead of the character I created. It won't be easy. I'm not the same person who used to need your approval. Good. That person made me feel important for the wrong reasons. Maybe knowing the real you will help me find the real me. We talked for another hour, the longest, most honest conversation we'd had in years. About dreams deferred and identities built on comparison. About the fear of insignificance and the cost of conditional love. About the possibility of becoming sisters by choice rather than just birth. When we finally hung up, I felt something shift. Not forgiveness exactly, but the possibility of it. Not healing, but the first cleaning of wounds that had festered in silence. The media tour would continue. The company would grow. The family dynamics would slowly, painfully evolve. But in that hotel room, overlooking a city that had witnessed my transformation from hidden to seen, I felt something I hadn't in 3 years. Hope. Not for who we'd been, but for who we might become. A family that could see each other fully. Sisters who could succeed without comparison. Parents who could love without conditions. It would take time. It would take work. It would take more honest conversations and probably some therapy. But for the first time in 3 years, it felt possible. The next morning brought more interviews, more questions about family and success and visibility. But I answered them differently now. Not from a place of hurt, but from understanding. We'd all been trapped in roles we'd outgrown. We'd all been blind to possibilities beyond our definitions. The story was no longer about the family who couldn't see their daughter's success. It was about what happens when comfortable fiction meets uncomfortable truth. About the courage to be seen as you really are. About the grace to see others as they really are. About rebuilding when the foundation has crumbled. About choosing truth over comfort, even when truth comes with a multi-million-dollar valuation and a family in crisis. About finally impossibly being seen. 6 months. That's how long it took for the dust to settle, for the viral clips to fade from memory, for our family to attempt something resembling normal. Except normal was a concept we'd thoroughly destroyed that Thanksgiving night, and what emerged in its place was something stranger and more honest. I'd maintained my boundaries during those months. No more Sunday dinners where I performed smallness. No more hiding my success or translating it into acceptable terms. But I hadn't cut them off entirely either. We existed in a careful dance of distance and tentative connection. The first real test came in March, when Emma called with unexpected news. I quit, she announced without preamble. The bank? Everything. The bank, the wedding, the life I'd mapped out to please everyone but myself. I set down the acquisition proposal I'd been reviewing. Emma, what happened? You happened. That interview happened. Watching my sister build an empire while I celebrated having a desk happened. Her voice was manic excited. I've been sleepwalking through life, Rachel, playing it safe, following the script, being the good daughter. And for what, a middle management position and a window view? There's nothing wrong with traditional success. Stop. Don't do that. Don't minimize your truth to make me feel better. That's what got us here. She was right. Old habits died hard. Okay, I said. Tell me what's really going on. Marcus and I called off the engagement 2 weeks ago. What? Why didn't you tell anyone? Because I needed to figure out who I was without the labels. Without being the successful sister or the future bride or the bank manager. Just Emma. And who is Emma? I don't know yet. But I know she's not satisfied with a desk by the window and a wedding plan to impress other people. I've been thinking about what you said about building something that matters, creating opportunities. I want that. What about mom and dad? They're processing. Mom cried for 3 days. Dad keeps offering to talk to Marcus. They're treating it like a death rather than a liberation. One sounds familiar. Right, it's like Thanksgiving all over again, except this time I'm the disappointment. She laughed, but it wasn't bitter. There's something freeing about it, actually, falling off the pedestal they put me on. Careful, that fall can be addictive. Is that what happened to you? You got addicted to defying expectations. I got addicted to meeting my own expectations rather than theirs. Teach me, she said suddenly. I'm serious. I have savings, I have skills, I have this burning need to build something, but I don't know where to start. You want me to mentor you? The irony is pretty thick. I know, but I'm not offering resume tips and interview clothes. I'm asking my successful CEO sister to help me find my own path. We met for coffee that weekend, not at the shop near her former bank, but at a place in my neighborhood where entrepreneurs gathered to work on laptops and dream big dreams. Emma looked different. Not just the casual clothes replacing her banking attire, but something in her posture. The rigid perfectionism had softened into something more authentic. I've been thinking about what I'm good at, she began. Really good at not just what looks good on paper. I'm good at seeing patterns, understanding what people need before they ask, making connections between disparate things. Those are valuable skills. But for what I can't code, I don't have a technical background. I'm not a visionary like you. Vision isn't about technical skills. It's about seeing problems worth solving. What problems do you see? She pulled out a notebook, not a banking ledger, but a messy journal filled with observations and questions. Financial literacy. Everyone talks about it, but nobody makes it accessible. Banking assumes knowledge people don't have. Investment apps intimidate beginners. There's this huge gap between people who need financial guidance and the system supposedly serving them. Keep going. Wow, what if there was a platform that actually taught financial literacy through practice, not lectures or articles, but interactive experiences, like a game that actually helped people understand money? That's interesting. You think it's not revolutionary AI or industry disruption? Stop. I held up my hand. First rule, stop comparing your beginning to anyone else's middle. Second rule, solve the problem you're passionate about, not the one you think sounds impressive. Even if it seems small, my company started with me frustrated by bad customer service. Every big thing begins small. The question is, does this problem keep you up at night? Does solving it matter to you beyond potential profit? Yes. No hesitation. I've watched so many people, friends, coworkers, even family make terrible financial decisions because nobody ever taught them better. The bank didn't care as long as they kept their accounts, but I cared. It bothered me every day. Then that's your starting point. We worked for hours sketching out possibilities, discussing market research, identifying potential challenges. Emma absorbed everything with the hunger of someone who'd been starving for meaningful work. This is what you tried to share, she said suddenly. All those Sunday dinners when you talked about your company, this excitement, this possibility, and we just dismissed it. You weren't ready to hear it. I was scared of it. Your passion made my stability look like stagnation. My phone buzzed with a text from Mom. Is Emma with you? She's not answering my calls. I showed Emma the message. She sighed. I should talk to them, but every conversation becomes about Marcus, about the wedding, about throwing away my perfect life. They can't see that it wasn't perfect, just perfectly acceptable. Want some advice? Please. Show, don't tell. Stop trying to explain why you're changing and start building what you're becoming. They'll either adjust to the reality or they won't, but you can't wait for permission to grow. Is that what you did? I tried telling first. When that failed, I built in silence. Looking back, I wish I'd found a middle ground. Keep them informed without seeking approval. Share your journey without needing validation. Be visible on your own terms. Visible on my own terms, she repeated. I like that. Over the following weeks, Emma threw herself into research with the same intensity she'd once applied to banking protocols. She interviewed potential users, studied existing platforms, identified gaps in the market. She was building her vision systematically, methodically, brilliantly. Mom called me one afternoon, voice tight with worry. Your sister is having some kind of breakdown. She quit her job, ended her engagement, and now she's talking about startups and platforms and venture capital. This is your influence. Yes, I agreed. It is. You're proud of this, watching her throw away everything she worked for. I'm proud that she's finally working for something she chose rather than something chosen for her. She had stability. She had a cage with golden bars. There's a difference. Not everyone can be a CEO, Rachel. Not everyone can build empires. No, but everyone can build something meaningful to them. Emma's not trying to replicate my path. She's finding her own. And if she fails, then she'll learn and try again, like I did, like every entrepreneur does, like you never let either of us do because you were so focused on protecting us from failure. We were protecting you. You were protecting yourselves from having unsuccessful daughters. But success isn't just about steady paychecks and traditional milestones. Sometimes it's about the courage to say, this isn't enough, and build something better. Emma's journey wasn't smooth. There were nights she called panicking about giving up security for uncertainty, days when the complexity of building a business overwhelmed her organized banker's mind, moments when our parents' disappointment weighed heavier than her dreams. But she persisted, found mentors, built prototypes, failed fast, and iterated faster. Within 4 months, she had a working beta and positive user feedback. Within 6, she had her first investor meeting lined up. I'm terrified, she admitted the night before the pitch. We were in my office practicing her presentation for the 100th time. Good. Terror means you care. Use it. What if they see through me, the failed banker pretending to be an entrepreneur? You're not pretending. You identified a problem, built a solution, and validated market fit. That's not pretense. That's proof. But I'm not you. I don't have your track record or technical background or... Emma, I stopped her spiral. You're right. You're not me. You're you solving a problem I never could have identified because I never worked in banking. Your failure is actually your unique insight. Lead with that. She did. The investors saw what I'd seen: someone who understood the problem intimately and had the drive to solve it. They offered seed funding on the spot. I did it, she called, crying. They said yes. They actually said yes. You did it? I confirmed. Not me, not our family's expectations, not anyone else. You. We should tell Mom and Dad. Together, present a united front. Or, I suggested, you could tell them yourself. Your victory, your moment. Stop needing me as a buffer. She was quiet for a moment. You're right. This is mine to own. I heard about the conversation secondhand from Bradley, how Emma had announced her funding with quiet pride, how she'd weathered their confusion and concern without defensiveness, how she'd invited them into her vision without begging for validation. She's changed, Bradley told me. More like you, but still herself. It's actually pretty inspiring. People change when they stop accepting limitations as laws. Think our parents will ever get there? Maybe. They're facing 2 successful daughters who succeeded differently. That's gotta shift something. It did, slowly. Mom started asking real questions about our companies. Dad began reading about entrepreneurship, trying to understand our world. They still defaulted to traditional metrics, sometimes still worried about our risky choices, but they were trying. The real breakthrough came when a local newspaper ran a feature on successful sister entrepreneurs. They'd found out about Emma's new company and connected it to my story. The article was titled, "The Thompson Sisters Redefining Success on Their Own Terms." Mom called me crying. I'm so proud, she said. The article talks about how you both overcame family expectations to build something meaningful. I wish we'd been the ones supporting you instead of the expectations you had to overcome. You're supporting us now. Is it enough after everything? It's a start. We can't change the past 3 years, but we can change the next 30. Emma's company launched publicly that fall. Her platform helped thousands of people understand finance through gamified learning. She hired her first employees, signed partnership deals, started fielding acquisition interest. At her launch party, our entire family attended. Not the family who'd gathered for Thanksgiving a year ago, trapped in old dynamics and false narratives, but a family evolving, still imperfect, still struggling with change, but present. "Look at my daughters," Dad said during his toast voice thick with emotion. "One who revolutionized customer service, one who's democratizing financial literacy. They didn't just prove me wrong about their potential, they showed me how small my definition of success was." It wasn't a perfect speech. He still centered himself more than necessary, still framed our success in terms of his learning curve. But he was trying, and that mattered. Later, as the party wound down, Emma and I stood on the balcony overlooking the city. "We did it," she said. "Despite them, because of them, in spite of them, however you want to frame it. We built our own definitions." Was it worth it? The pain, the hiding, the family crisis? She thought for a moment. Ask me in another 6 months. But right now, standing here as myself instead of their version of me, yes. Absolutely yes. Even though you could have kept the desk by the window. Especially because I gave up the desk by the window. That desk was never mine. It was theirs, their dream, their definition, their limitation. This, she gestured at the party full of people celebrating her vision. This is mine. We stood in comfortable silence, two sisters who'd found each other by first finding themselves. Inside our family, mingled with our chosen families, investors, employees, mentors, friends who'd seen our potential when blood couldn't. "Thank you," Emma said suddenly, "for showing me it was possible, for being brave enough to build in silence when they wouldn't listen, for giving me an example of what choosing yourself looks like. You would have found your way eventually. Maybe, but watching you made it happen faster. And despite all the pain it caused, all the drama and misunderstanding, I'm grateful. Your hidden success saved me from a life of visible mediocrity." "We saved ourselves," I corrected, "and maybe eventually we'll save this family too." "From what?" "From needing us to be anything other than who we are." The party continued inside our two worlds, no longer separate but intertwined. Not perfectly, there were still awkward moments when old dynamics surfaced, but genuinely with a kind of messy authenticity that real growth requires. 6 months after Thanksgiving, we hadn't healed all wounds or bridged all gaps, but we'd started building something new, a family that could hold multiple definitions of success, multiple paths to fulfillment, multiple versions of its daughters. It wasn't the family we'd grown up in. It was the family we were choosing to become. And that more than any Forbes listing or funding round felt like success. 1 year later, I stood in the kitchen of my Malibu home watching the sun paint the Pacific in shades of gold and amber. The house had been my gift to myself after our IPO, not for its luxury, but for its light. After years of hiding in shadows, I wanted to live surrounded by brightness. The doorbell rang, followed by the chaos of family arriving. Not the strained formal gatherings of the past, but something newer and more honest. They came in waves, Mom and Dad first still adjusting to the house's scale, but no longer apologizing for their daughter's success. Emma and Marcus, they'd found their way back to each other after both had found themselves carrying dishes and debates about their respective companies. Extended family trickling in with genuine curiosity rather than condescending concern. "The view never gets old," Mom said, joining me on the deck. She looked healthier than she had in years, the constant worry finally lifted from her shoulders. "Neither does having you here without pretense," I replied. I brought something, she said, pulling out a worn photo album. I've been going through old pictures trying to understand how we missed so much. The album was filled with childhood moments Emma and me at various ages achievements, large and small, documented with parental pride. Science fairs, piano recitals, soccer games. Look at this one. Mom pointed to a photo of 10-year-old me presenting a future business leaders project. You built an entire model company, wrote a business plan, created marketing materials. You were 10, Rachel. How did we see this and not see who you'd become? Because you were looking for the traditional paths. My entrepreneurship only made sense to you within existing structures, not as something I'd create from scratch. We were scared, she admitted, scared of you failing, of you struggling, of the world being cruel to our ambitious daughter. So we tried to make you smaller, safer. Smaller felt like suffocation. I know that now. Emma's journey this past year has taught us that. Watching her bloom outside the box we built, it's beautiful and heartbreaking. Beautiful because she's thriving. Heartbreaking because we almost stole that from both of you. The conversation was interrupted by Emma's laughter from inside. She was demonstrating her platform's newest feature to Uncle Terry, who'd become an unlikely champion of both our companies. He'd even invested in Emma's Series A, putting his money where his newfound faith was. Shall we? Mom asked, gesturing toward the gathering crowd. The dining room was set for 22 family plus key members of our respective teams who'd become extended family. My CTO sat next to Grandma Rose, patiently explaining artificial intelligence while she shared stories of running her seamstress business decades ago. Emma's lead developer compared notes with cousin Bradley about user experience design. This was what I'd always wanted: my worlds integrated, not hidden from each other. Before we eat, Dad said, standing with a wine glass, I want to share something. This past year has been transformative, not just for our daughters who've built incredible things, but for all of us who had to confront our own limitations. He pulled out his phone, surprising everyone. I've been taking an online course about technology startups, the new economy. I'm probably the oldest student, definitely the slowest, but I'm learning. Because I refuse to spend another year unable to understand my daughters' lives. Oh, Dad, Emma said, touched. You didn't have to. I did. We all did. We spent so long trying to fit you both into our understanding instead of expanding our understanding to include you. That changes now. Speaking of change, Emma announced, Marcus and I have news. The room tensed slightly. Old habits of expecting traditional announcements died hard. We're launching a joint venture. My financial literacy platform and Rachel's AI technology, creating personalized financial guidance at scale. We've already got pilot programs with 3 major banks. The room erupted in genuine celebration, not the performed enthusiasm of the past, but real joy for innovation, for collaboration, for success defined on our terms. This is what we missed, Aunt Patricia said quietly to me later as we cleared dishes. All those years of comparing you unfavorably to Emma, we missed that you were both exceptional, just differently. We all miss what we're not prepared to see. No more, she said firmly. I've started reading about what you do. It's hard to understand sometimes, but I'm trying. We all are. The evening evolved into something unprecedented in our family history, genuine professional discussions. Mom asked real questions about user acquisition. Dad debated market strategies with Marcus. Emma and I presented our collaboration plans to an engaged, informed audience. But it was the family therapy session that surprised me most. We've been going, Mom mentioned casually as we served dessert. All of us, working through the dynamics that led to everything. Family therapy. Every other week. Dr. Martinez is excellent. She calls it recalibrating family systems after success disruption. Success disruption, I repeated. I like that better than family betrayal. Both can be true, Emma added. We betrayed your reality while you disrupted our assumptions. Therapy is helping us own both parts. Is it helping? Look around. Mom gestured to the integrated gathering. A year ago, this would have been impossible. Now it's just Thursday. As the evening continued, I found myself documenting moments not for evidence, but for joy. Dad deep in conversation with my head of product about machine learning applications. Mom and Emma's CFO bonding over operational challenges. Our two companies' teams naturally networking, finding synergies. The highlight came when Bradley pulled up a presentation on his laptop. I've been working on something, he announced, inspired by both of you. He'd created a nonprofit focused on entrepreneurship education for overlooked communities, using Emma's accessible teaching methods and principles from my hiring practices. He'd designed programs for people typically excluded from startup ecosystems. I've already got funding from 3 foundations, he beamed, including one that specifically cited your companies as proof that innovation comes from unexpected places. Bradley, this is incredible, I said, meaning it. How can we help? Mentorship, both of you, and maybe some strategic advice as I scale. Absolutely, Emma agreed immediately. This is exactly the kind of impact we wanted to create. The ripple effects were undeniable. Our success hadn't just changed our lives, but had inspired others to expand their definitions of possible. Even family members who'd been most resistant were finding their own ways to grow. As midnight approached and people began leaving, Mom lingered in the kitchen, helping with final cleanup. I owe you an apology, she said suddenly, not just for not seeing you, but for what I said at Thanksgiving 2 years ago. Which part? When I told you not to mention your job, when I whispered it like your success was shameful, that moment has haunted me. It haunted me too. I know. Dr. Martinez helped me understand how that must have felt. Like I was asking you to erase yourself for our comfort. I'm deeply sorry. Thank you. That means a lot. I've been thinking about why I did it. I think I was terrified that if the Hartmans knew about your success, they'd judge us for not knowing. That they'd see what terrible parents we must be to miss something so significant. So I tried to hide the evidence of our failure. But hiding me was the failure. Yes, the very thing I was trying to prevent I created. It's been a hard lesson. We finished cleaning in comfortable silence, years of hurt slowly healing through honest acknowledgement. Your father and I have been discussing something, she said eventually. We want to create a family foundation, focus on supporting young entrepreneurs whose families don't understand their vision, turn our blindness into insight for others. That's beautiful, Mom. We can't undo the past 3 years, but maybe we can prevent other families from making our mistakes. I'd like to be involved in that. We hoped you both would be. Emma's already agreed. We want it to be something we build together as a family, the family we're becoming, not the one we were. As the last guest left and the house settled into quiet, I stood on the deck watching moonlight dance on waves. The journey from that Thanksgiving disaster to this moment had been painful, but necessary. Penny, for your thoughts? Emma joined me wrapped in one of my throw blankets. Just thinking about how different this Thanksgiving was from 2 years ago. Night and day, though I do sometimes miss the drama of secret millionaire reveals. I laughed. Once was enough. Besides, your story was pretty dramatic too. The perfect daughter who chose imperfection. We should write a book. The Thompson Sisters' Guide to Disappointing Your Parents into Enlightenment. Bestseller material right there. We stood quietly comfortable in shared understanding. 2 sisters who'd found their way back to each other by first finding themselves. Thank you, Emma said suddenly. I know I've said it before, but thank you for being brave enough to build in silence when we couldn't see. Your hidden success lit a path I didn't know existed. We lit it together, just took different matches. Different matches, same fire, she agreed. Inside, through the windows, I could see our parents saying goodbye to the last stragglers. Dad helping Mom with her coat, both of them looking lighter than they had in years, unburdened by the weight of misplaced expectations. So, Emma asked, what's next? World domination. Not been there, done that. I'm thinking something harder. Harder than building a multi-million-dollar company while your family thinks you're unemployed. Much harder, I'm thinking about learning to accept love without conditions attached, to trust that being seen doesn't require being diminished, to believe that family can evolve. That is harder, Emma agreed. But look at tonight. Look at this year. We're already doing it. She was right. Imperfectly, slowly, sometimes painfully, but genuinely, we were rebuilding. Not just our individual lives, but our collective story. A family that had learned to see each other not as supporting characters in individual narratives, but as complete people with complex dreams. One question, Emma said as we headed inside. What do you want to share for people going through something similar? I thought about all the hidden entrepreneurs out there building in silence because their truth didn't fit their family's fiction. About all the Emmas trapped in conventional success because that's what earned approval. About all the parents who loved imperfectly and missed miracles in their midst. I guess I'd want them to know that visibility isn't just about being seen, it's about being willing to show up as yourself, even when others aren't ready to see you. That success isn't just about what you build, but about becoming who you're meant to be. And that sometimes the people who love you need time to catch up to who you've become. And for the families, listen, really listen. Your loved ones are telling you who they are. Believe them. Celebrate them. Don't wait for external validation to recognize internal truth. And understand that when someone stops shrinking themselves for your comfort, it's not betrayal. It's trust that your love can expand to hold their full size. We went back inside where our parents were gathering their things, making plans for next month's family dinner. Not because tradition demanded it, but because we genuinely wanted to spend time together. The obligation had transformed into opportunity. Drive safe. I hugged them goodbye. Text when you get home. We will, Mom promised. And Rachel, thank you for not giving up on us, even when we gave you every reason to. Family's complicated, I said, but it's ours to complicate and uncomplicate as we go. They left with waves and genuine smiles, and I closed the door on a Thanksgiving that had healed what another had broken. The house felt full even in its emptiness, charged with the energy of authentic connection. I returned to the deck one final time, breathing in salt air and possibility. The company would continue growing. Emma's venture would flourish. Our family would keep evolving. But tonight I was just grateful for the journey that had brought us here, for the pain that had taught us truth, for the blindness that had led to sight, for the family we'd lost and the family we'd found, which turned out to be the same people just finally seeing each other clearly. The moon reflected off the water, a reminder that light finds a way even in darkness. We'd been our own light when family couldn't see us. Now we were learning to shine together. That Thanksgiving, I lost my family and found myself, I whispered to the ocean, echoing the words I'd thought 2 years ago. This Thanksgiving, I have both. And for the first time in longer than I could remember, that felt like enough. More than enough. It felt like everything. If this story resonated with you, whether you're the unseen success or the family struggling to see, I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Have you ever felt invisible to those who should see you first? Have you discovered that a loved one was living a life you never knew about? How did you bridge that gap? Please like this video if it touched you, subscribe for more stories about families finding their way back to each other, and share it with someone who might need to hear that it's never too late to start seeing clearly. Thank you for joining me on this journey from hidden to seen. Remember, your truth matters. Your success is valid on your own terms, and sometimes the greatest gift you can give your family is the courage to be exactly who you are. Until next time, keep building, keep growing, and keep showing up as your full self. The world needs what you're creating, even if your family needs time to see it. With love and hope for all our complicated families, Rachel.